When Lotus knelt and begged me for support, I knew she was the female lead. I gave her tuition money, and she cried, saying, "Even though this amount isn't enough for one of your breakfasts, I'm content." When I gave her a monthly allowance of 30,000, she was utterly aggrieved. I know she treats me like a beggar she's trying to get rid of, but I won't ask for more. And just like that, both my childhood friend and my younger brother felt sorry for her, resenting me for bullying the weak and failing to help those in need. After I refused to buy her a villa, she pushed me into the sea. Before I died, I heard her say, "I just wanted to have a home, that's all." When I opened my eyes again, I saw Lotus, her eyes red from crying, begging me for support. I smiled. "Lotus, just you wait, I'm going to make your life a living hell." The moment Lotus got down on her knees and begged me for financial support, I knew she was the female lead. She came from a poor family, yet her academic performance was outstanding. To finish university, she had only two paths available. It's either get a part-time job or beg for financial support. For someone like Lotus, getting a part-time job was out of the question, so she set her sights on her college roommate, me. I have a soft heart. In my past life, the moment she brought it up, I handed over a large sum of money to support her. Little did I know that in the end, I would be pushed into the sea by the very person I had nurtured with my own hands. Never in this lifetime, absolutely not. Sherry, please, I'm begging you, just help me out. Your family is so wealthy, not like me. I've had to scrimp and save since I was a child. Maybe this amount is just your daily pocket money, but it's enough to feed me for a whole year. Tears streaked Lotus's delicate face, a sight that tugged at the heartstrings. That trick might work on others, but not on me. It was just about time for dinner. Everyone had finished class and was heading to the cafeteria. Lotus chose this moment to tell me, clearly wanting these passers-by to see. When I remained silent, Lotus pressed on, "If all else fails, I'll be your servant. I'll do anything. I know you've always looked down on poor folks like me, but I'm truly at the end of my rope." I didn't want to hear any more. I let out a cold laugh. "Yeah, you're definitely poor, but they say poverty doesn't diminish ambition. How come you're the exception? You've got 2 hands and 2 feet. Can't you earn your own money? What's it to you if I have money? What does my wealth have to do with you? This money wasn't stolen or taken by force. It was earned through the hard work of my elders. So you think I should just hand over my money because you said so?" Lotus clearly didn't expect me to say that. She froze on the spot, completely taken aback. The bystanders around us, who initially felt sorry for Lotus, couldn't help but start whispering among themselves after hearing my words, "She's got a point. That money was hard-earned by her parents. You really shouldn't guilt-trip someone into just handing it over." Exactly. If that student just got a part-time job, she wouldn't be in this situation. My family isn't well off either, but I could always get a part-time job. What kind of person was begging on their knees? Tears welled up in Lotus's eyes once more. "I'm sorry, Sherry. I didn't mean to upset you. It's all my fault." "As long as you know it's your fault, don't ever say something so thoughtless again. If you're broke, figure out how to make money yourself. Don't just kneel on the ground like a beggar, begging others for handouts." I kept laying into her, while Lotus sobbed uncontrollably. A few students passed by, saw the scene, and immediately stopped to gawk. "Sis, what are you doing?" a voice called out from a distance. I looked up and saw it was none other than my dear half-brother, Vincent. "Well, look who's here again, my dear little brother." In my past life, this is where Lotus first met Vincent. Her delicate, fragile demeanor instantly captured his heart. After that, Vincent pleaded with me over and over to give Lotus a little more, but, to be fair, he had a point. This money was left to me by my grandfather, not earned by our drunkard of a father. Of course he doesn't care about it, too. Vincent ran over to Lotus and helped her up. "What's wrong? If you have something to say, just say it. Why are you kneeling on the ground?" Lotus continued to sob uncontrollably. "It's nothing. Sherry was my college roommate. I heard she's quite well off, casually spending nearly $1,000 on a single breakfast, so I wanted to beg her for help. After all, we were roommates in college, but I never imagined she could be so heartless. Oh well, it doesn't matter. She's right. It's her family's money. Why on earth should she give it to me?" I deliberately feigned surprise. "What I spend on breakfast is none of your business. What's the matter? Jealous? If you're that envious, go see the campus doctor. What's that got to do with me? You said it yourself. We're college roommates. Couldn't this have been discussed in our dorm? Why out here in the busy restaurant entrance? So you want everyone to feel sorry for you, and get my sympathy while you're at it. Is that it? I never thought this deeply about it in my past life, but now that I consider it, that's exactly how it was." Some of the bystanders who were just here for the drama suddenly had a moment of clarity, nodding their heads vigorously in understanding. Yeah, that's actually a fair point. What's wrong with this woman? If I needed to ask for financial help, I'd definitely do it privately and discreetly. These kinds of things are embarrassing. After all, how disgusting can someone be? She's taking someone's support and then pulls a stunt like this. Exactly, and it's her own college roommate. The poor girl is stuck between a rock and a hard place. That's terrifying. She's so calculating. The murmurs from the surrounding crowd grew louder. Vincent furrowed his brow and looked at Lotus. Sis, it's just a little money. What's the big deal to you? What's wrong with just giving it to her? I couldn't help but laugh. Fine then, if you want to give her money, go ahead and give it to her yourself. Why are you telling me this? After all, Vincent's money comes from me anyway, in my past life. I thought since he was my brother, I treated him quite well. I never imagined I'd end up raising such an ungrateful wretch after I died. He didn't even glance my way. He spent all his time comforting Lotus, who was traumatized from our outing. Then I'll help her myself. Vincent snorted coldly, turning to Lotus. Don't worry, I'll sponsor you from now on. I nodded. Since you're so compassionate, you can earn your own money. It'll be good practice for you. After saying that, I turned and walked straight towards the restaurant. Vincent stood there, frozen and unable to process what had just happened. Quite a crowd had gathered at the restaurant entrance to watch the scene, including my other two roommates. They walked right over and stood in front of me. Lotus, what are you trying to get from Sherry this time? Hearing that, I felt a surge of emotion. In my past life, they had tried to stop me from providing financial support a few times, but under the influence of Vincent and Silas, I paid no heed to their warnings, and in this lifetime, I let out a laugh, turning my head to look at Lotus, whose eyes were reddening, and Vincent standing beside her. If you want to be a beggar, learn to kowtow. If you're just trying to emotionally blackmail me, no way. With that said, I took my roommates and left. These people aren't worth ruining my meal over. 3 After lunch, Vincent suddenly showed up. Sis, the counselor wants to see you. Hearing that, I couldn't help but burst out laughing. In my past life, when I agreed to invest in Lotus, she immediately reported the matter to our counselor. I never thought it would be the same story in this life, but it's fine. I've been prepared for this all along. Without so much as a glance at Vincent, I headed straight for the counselor's office. When I arrived, I found Lotus sitting on a nearby chair, sobbing uncontrollably. My childhood friend Silas was there too, just as I thought. This must be where they first met in my past life. I guess birds of a feather flock together. Two freeloaders from similar backgrounds seeking comfort in each other. You only think of me when you're short on cash. Sherry, you're here. The counselor smiled at me, still showing a degree of patience. After all, my late grandfather had invested in this school. Now that he's gone, I've inherited his estate, which makes me a shareholder here. The counselor had tried to get information from me privately back then, but I was soft-hearted and deliberately covered for Lotus, and in this life, sure enough, the very next second, I heard the counselor seeking confirmation. Lotus just told me you two had a disagreement, something about money. I laughed. Since they've already brought this to the counselor, I don't think it's too much for me to add fuel to the fire. Is it? For teacher, you found me at just the right time. There's something I'd like to discuss with you. The counselor looked somewhat surprised and nodded. Go on, tell me. I want to find Lotus a part-time job at school, serving food in the cafeteria, cleaning the bathrooms, anything. She can do it all. I turned to look at Lotus. Hearing my words, she froze in place. Why do I need to find a part-time job? Lotus instinctively shot back a question. I deliberately feigned a look of shock. Don't you want a part-time job? Just today, you were kneeling on the street telling me you were broke and asking me for money, but I don't have much money either, so I thought I'd come to the counselor to find you a job. I didn't expect you to be so ungrateful. I guess I overstepped, but you're broke and you don't want to get a part-time job. What? You expect a free ride? I'm not about to encourage that kind of freeloading mentality. It's a bad look for society. My younger brother, who had followed me over, couldn't hold back his anger when he heard me say that. Sis, what are you talking about? What do you mean, a free ride? Am I wrong? I looked at Lotus, her face flushed with embarrassment, as if she couldn't bear the awkwardness. If you don't want to work a part-time job, how do you expect good things to just fall into your lap? Isn't that right, Professor? The academic advisor nodded. Yeah, you can't exactly force someone to invest in you if they don't want to. Getting a part-time job is a good idea. Plenty of students at our school work part-time to earn money. If you're interested, I can help you find one. The counselor looked at Lotus. Lotus's expression visibly tensed up. I couldn't help but sneer at her in my mind. Old habits die hard. She wants the money but can't be bothered to put in the work, teacher. Lotus hesitated, unsure of what to say. Seeing this, my childhood friend Silas quickly spoke up. Sherry, Lotus needs to focus on her studies too. Besides, she looks so frail and delicate, she probably gets sick often. How can you expect her to take on a part-time job? I let out a cold laugh. So I don't need to study, is that it? By your logic, none of the students at our school who work part-time are studying either. Besides, you're perfectly happy to freeload yourself. How can you demand that others don't go out and work? My words hit Silas right where it hurt. I've been the one footing the bill for his tuition and everything else all this time, and now he has the nerve to side with others against me. How laughable. Lotus, are you going to take the part-time job or not? The counselor looked at Lotus with a hint of impatience. Professor, I'm really not in the best health. If I took the job, I'm afraid I'd just hold everyone back. Lotus kept her head bowed, so it turns out her childhood friend, gave her the perfect excuse to say that. Oh, is that so? If you're feeling unwell or something's wrong, just show us a doctor's note. I'll rally everyone to chip in for you or something. My words left Lotus speechless, not knowing how to respond. Just then, the bell rang, and Lotus quickly seized the chance to speak. Professor, I have to get to class. Let's put the part-time job idea on hold for now. And as for the donation, it's really not necessary. Hearing that, I nodded curtly. Fine, just make sure you stop going around telling everyone you're broken looking for handouts, otherwise, I might just have to save a janitorial position for you in the school restrooms. Lotus beat a hasty retreat. I scoffed coldly, ignored the accusations from Silas and Vincent, and walked away. I hadn't gone far when Lotus stopped me. Sherry, are you mad at me? 5. Lotus looked at me, and hearing her words, I couldn't help but laugh. Why would I be angry? Your photos are already being passed around in the class group chat. You're the one who should be embarrassed, not me. If I remember correctly, we didn't have class just now, did we? If the teacher finds out you lied to him, what do you think he'll think? Lotus's face visibly paled with panic, and she quickly spoke up. I only asked for your help because I'm broke. If you're not okay with it, then forget it. There's no need to put me on the spot like this. My childhood friend and my younger brother caught up with us again. They exchanged a glance and positioned themselves on either side of Lotus, standing like a pair of guardians. Sherry, when did you become like this? Silas looked at me in disbelief. You used to be so gentle and sweet, but now you're so aggressive. I just laughed. Exactly. It's because you're too kind and sweet that you got taken advantage of. What? Can't stand to see it. Huh. I turned to look at Lotus again. Forget about getting an investment from me. Maybe you should just go be a mistress instead. Being a mistress isn't so bad. You can get someone to take care of you, give you more money and all that. The moment I said that, the expressions on both Lotus's and Silas's faces changed instantly. Those words really hit a nerve with both of them. After all, in my past life, I found out after I died that Lotus had actually been the mistress of a school board member's relative. As for Silas, what a coincidence. His mother was a mistress too, but because he was beaten as a child, I felt sorry for him, so I took out all my money to support him, and now, after all that, I've raised an ungrateful wretch. Sis, what happened to you? Vincent shook his head in disbelief. What do you mean, what happened to me? By the way, you're old enough now, you can't just idle around all day. If you have free time, you should get a part-time job. After all, I won't be giving you any more money for your studies from now on. My brother's face instantly changed. He's been pampered since childhood. When has he ever had to work a part-time job? But what does any of that have to do with me? They can forget about ever seeing another penny from me for the rest of their lives. 6. That very night, I dragged my 2 roommates out shopping. We came back loaded with bags, and the look on Lotus's face instantly changed. Her eyes were glued to my shopping bags. Sherry, I'm so envious of you. Envious, not resentful. I asked on purpose, and sure enough, Lotus's expression grew tense. How could you think that? It's true you're wealthy, but I only envy you, that's all. After all, this money was left to you by your family. It's a shame I don't have family like that. I nodded. Yeah, I don't know if you're just cursed when it comes to family, but how did you end up so unlucky? Lotus's expression changed instantly. Seeing that I had absolutely no interest in engaging with her, she gritted her teeth and tried to cozy up to me again. Sherry, are you really not able to lend me some money? I'm counting on this for university. As she spoke, Lotus began to sob once more. Of course I can, I said with a smile. At my words, Lotus's eyes instantly lit up, while the expressions of my other 2 roommates grew tense. Summer break is coming up. If you want to earn some money, you can come work at my company. It's also an inheritance left to me by my maternal grandfather. I'm not the one running it day to day right now, but I've started to gradually take it on. I'll fully take over the company management after I graduate. Lotus was stunned upon hearing this. But what are you worried about? I'll not only pay you, but also provide an internship certificate. How does that sound? Lotus hesitated for a moment, then quickly nodded. All right, it's a deal. Honestly, it's not about the money or the job itself. I just want to spend more time with you all. Okay then, you can start as a junior staff member. Don't worry, I won't make you clean the toilets or anything like that. I deliberately put on an air of magnanimity. As long as I can get the internship certificate, that's all that matters. Lotus bit her lower lip, then returned to her seat and went back to studying. My two roommates looked at me with confusion, and I whispered to them, "It's fine, I have my own plans. Do you two want to join? There are internship certificates for everyone." An internship certificate from a listed company is something many people want. Those two were no exception. After confirming it wouldn't affect me, they agreed to come as well. And then, on the first official day of the holiday, I had just arrived at the base of the office building when I spotted two figures not far away. A cold sneer escaped my lips. I knew my little brother wasn't one to just sit around idle. 7. I walked over, my face a mask of cold indifference as I looked at my father and stepmother. "Sherry, what on earth is going on? I heard from your brother that you cut off his allowance. Is that right?" The person saying this was my dad, his breath reeking of alcohol the moment he spoke, looked like he'd been on another drinking binge, and standing right beside him was my stepmother. On the surface, my stepmother has always been perfectly polite to me, because all the money in their hands came from me, but when I died, she was the one who trampled on me the hardest, wishing all my money would end up in her hands. It's truly severed. He's already this old, giving him more money now would just be spoiling him. But your brother is running out of money. I raised an eyebrow. Then let him take a part-time job at my company. Seeing their hesitation, I spoke up at the right moment. How about this? I'll arrange a relatively easy job for him. It'll also give him a chance to get familiar with the company environment. Later on, I can hand this company over to him. What do you two think? My casual promise instantly wiped the scowls off their faces, replacing them with smiles. So that's what you had in mind. You really did have our best interests at heart. We'll talk to him as soon as we get back and tell him to come work at your company. My father and stepmother left happily. I watched their retreating figures, narrowing my eyes. I will never let these two people off the hook in my entire life. The person currently in charge of the company is a trusted aide of my maternal grandfather. I've always called him Uncle Lee. Back when I was pushed into the sea, Uncle Lee was tirelessly handling my affairs. After the ordeal, he was mentally drained, which gave my stepmother the opening she needed. She seized the opportunity and had someone run him over with a car, killing him. I'll be sure to remember this. I wanted to come to the company to learn the ropes, and Uncle Lee was naturally happy to have me. He even taught me a great deal. By the way, Uncle Lee, we have a few interns starting at the company tomorrow. Just treat them as regular interns and assign them accordingly. Okay, no problem. After the briefing, I spent some time with Uncle Lee learning about the company's operations. In the afternoon, Silas came by. "Sherry," a faint smile played in Silas's eyes as he held a few wilting flowers in his hand. He placed the flowers on the table with a proud look, as if certain I would like them. My face twisted into a look of disgust. "These flowers stink. Take them away in a bit." Seeing me like this, an awkward expression crossed Silas's face, and he quickly hid the flowers behind his back. "I just wanted to ask if I could come intern at the company too." 8. I deliberately feigned surprise. "Do you still need to come intern at my company? Aren't you pretty capable? I imagine a lot of companies would want you." Silas was taken aback for a moment and let out a sigh. "You know, I want to be at the same company as you." "Well, I was just thinking, if I really joined your company, wouldn't I get to spend more time with you?" I suspect he just wants to spend more time with Lotus, doesn't he? But him coming here was part of my plan all along. After all, with Lotus here, how could he possibly run away? "Sure, I'll have Uncle Lee arrange it later," I said with a nod. Silas happily reached up to take my hand, but I deftly avoided it without a word. During dinner that evening, I asked my two roommates how their internships were going, paying particular attention to Lotus's situation. "She and your childhood friend, they were chatting the whole time. Hardly any work got done," Jocelyn said with a pout. Tiffany, standing beside me, looked at me with a hint of concern. I knew exactly what they were thinking. In my past life, they had both spoken ill of Silas in front of me, but I was too blind to see the truth and ended up lashing out at them in a fit of anger. Looking back now, it's clear they were the only ones who truly had my best interests at heart. Forget about them, let them stay here for now. It won't be long before the show begins. 2 more days passed, and Lotus, Silas, and Vincent all came to see me. I couldn't help but Sneer, waiting for their next round of emotional blackmail. Sure enough, Lotus looked at me hesitantly. Sherry, I was wondering if I could get an advance on my salary, would that be okay? I looked at her, thinking tomorrow was Friday. I could guess she was off to the hotel again to be that school trustee's relative's mistress. She was getting ready to doll herself up. I only found out about this after I died. Every Friday she would meet with the other person for something like this. Of course I had to give it a push. I didn't hesitate to have HR advance her salary. As I was leaving work, I overheard Lotus and the others gossiping again. I know she's treating me like a beggar, but I'm not asking for more. Don't overthink it. Just go ask her for some money when you get the chance. Silas comforted Lotus. Exactly. My sister has plenty of money. Don't worry. Once she gives it to me, I'll share it with you. My childhood friend and my foolish little brother really do look like a pair of brainless simps. I let out a cold laugh and turned to leave. Now, I just have to wait for the professional paparazzi I hired to do their job properly tomorrow. It just goes to show, you really do get what you pay for. I couldn't help but laugh at the stark white photo in my hand. Hire a top influencer to post it, with a full service package to buy trending spots. The matter concerning the school board member's relative instantly sparked heated discussion. Not only did the relative lose their job, but the board member was also dismissed. That very afternoon, a heavy-set woman stormed into my office and proceeded to beat Lotus black and blue. You home-wrecking bitch. If it weren't for you, my husband wouldn't have been fired by the school board. You'll pay for this. With that, the woman turned on her heel and left, arriving fashionably late. I took one look at Lotus's bruised and battered face and silently gave the woman my full approval. Excellent work, just as I expected from someone I handpicked. I had all of this recorded on the company's security cameras long ago, just adding some fresh content for the internet. Aren't we? 10. Word came from the school that Lotus had been expelled. She became a complete social pariah, cursed and reviled wherever she went. Naturally, I made sure to have someone tail her. We made sure to spread the word about her everywhere she went, but Lotus was no longer important. I turned my gaze to Silas and Vincent next. It was their turn. A couple of days later, Silas came to my office and started making a scene. What do you mean? My father's company was already on the brink of collapse. How could you do this? What are my mother and I supposed to do now? What does that have to do with me? Your family's company isn't profitable. I'm just pulling my investment back. I stared at Silas with an expressionless face. Silas's face turned unusually grim and cold, but after a moment, his expression softened considerably. Sherry, maybe you should still help out. You know how my dad has a bad temper. If our family's company really goes under, I'm afraid he'll take it out on me and my mom again. Silas's tone had softened considerably. It's a shame, though. I know exactly what kind of person he is. His bad temper is his problem, not mine. Don't give me that nonsense. If you think I'm handing over any money, you can forget it. Silas completely lost it. Fine then. What about all the years we grew up together? How can you be so heartless? I'm going to let everyone know what you're really like. With that, Silas turned and left. I watched his retreating back and let out a cold laugh. A few days later, Lotus sent me a message, asking to meet me at the beach. Looks like she can't hold back any longer. I've been ready for this all along. 11. What's up? I looked at the haggard Lotus before me, her gaze fixed on me, a venomous expression twisting her features. Why were you born into such wealth? You have everything, while my family has nothing. The world is so unfair. What makes you better than me? Even your childhood friend and your own brother prefer me. You just got lucky with your birth. That's all. I chuckled. So, you called me here just to compliment my luck in the birth lottery. After I said that, Lotus's expression darkened even more. She glared at me fiercely, then finally gritted her teeth and made her demand. Sherry, buy me a villa. Otherwise, I'll have Silas post all those heartless things you've done online. Me, heartless, I retorted, eyeing Lotus. Do you have any idea how much I've invested in their family over the years? But since that investment never paid off, of course I had to stop giving him money. That's basic business sense. Don't tell me you don't know that. Lotus narrowed her eyes. So what? Buy me a villa, and I'll make sure Silas doesn't trash you online. A villa is nothing to you, but it means everything to me. My demands are modest. Don't push your luck, as if afraid I wouldn't agree. Lotus added, I just want to have a home, that's all. I laughed. Just who is the one pushing their luck here, in the end? I just coldly replied with 2 words, in your dreams. Her face twisted, and she started to lose it. If you won't buy it for me, then just drop dead. Once you're dead, all your money will go to that good-for-nothing brother of yours, and then, it'll all be mine. As she said this, Lotus tried with all her might to shove me into the sea. Unfortunately for her, her balance was off. While I had been practicing martial arts ever since my rebirth, so the moment she made her move, I delivered a sharp kick straight to her knee, sending her sprawling to the ground. As she tried to get up again, I planted my foot on her face and said with a laugh, "Your life is over." After saying that, I turned my head and called out, "Uncle Lee." Uncle Lee rushed over with his men, the freshly recorded video still in his hand. Once the evidence was submitted, with my lawyer's backing, Lotus was promptly sentenced to 3 years in prison. As for Silas, who had been smearing me online, my top-tier lawyer's prosecution landed him a 6-month jail sentence as well. It's a shame men and women aren't held in the same prison. I would have loved to see the look on their faces when they saw each other. Within 6 months, the Shin family went bankrupt, and Silas's parents fled abroad. When I found out, I couldn't help but laugh. It looks like Silas is left holding the bag for all that $300 million in debt. That works out well. I won't need to find a chance to deal with Silas anymore. His creditors had ways to drive him to ruin. None of that has anything to do with me anymore. After that, I cut off all funding from my father's side. My brother couldn't afford Lotus's bail, so the 3 of them came to make a scene at my place once, but security threw them right out, of course, as they passed by. I deliberately left a bottle of 56 proof liquor and a set of car keys on the table. Sure enough, my father couldn't resist the temptation. He snatched them and took off. On his way to the garage, he even opened the bottle and took several big swigs. That very night, I heard my father got into a car accident while driving under the influence. He and my stepmother both became vegetative, confined to their beds forever. My brother, on the other hand, is much better off. He's only paralyzed. Thankfully, he's an adult now, so I don't have to act as his guardian or pay his expenses. Whether he lives or dies is none of my business. 3 years later, Lotus was released. Her first instinct was to find someone new to manipulate. Out of the kindness of my heart, I had someone escort him directly to my good-for-nothing brother's place. After all, even a paralyzed man can get a wife, right? I really am such a thoughtful and considerate older sister. I just never expected that Lotus would get nothing from my brother and, unable to bear the loneliness, would later find herself another man. My brother found out and finished off Lotus with a single slash. They say the method bore a certain resemblance to Silas's. TSK. My brother got life, but I heard from the guards that he went mad in there, started raving. I went to take a curious look. My brother, "Sis, it's me. It's really me. I was wrong. I've been reborn. I remember everything now. Sis, you can't give up on me. You just died in your last life, but you can't let my current life be ruined. Sherry, you deserve to die. Why don't you just drop dead already? If you were gone, all your money would be mine. Lotus, go to hell. Cheating on me. I'll kill you." No, I don't want to go to jail. This shouldn't be my fate. I was supposed to be a rich kid. I still have to go to school. I need to study. Hearing this, I felt nothing inside. Maybe he really was reborn, or maybe he's just gone mad. But so what? Everything about him has nothing to do with me. By that time, I had officially taken over the company. Not only that, I had also specifically established over a dozen branch offices. Multiple industry chains converged and flourished, and my grandfather's assets multiplied several times over. With nothing to do in the evening, I made a point of having dinner with Jocelyn and Tiffany. They have both become shareholders in my 2 branch companies. They're highly capable, completely loyal to me, and my unwavering support system. The 3 of us were joking around, and after the meal, I looked at them both. All right, if there's nothing else, you should head back, get some rest, because tomorrow we're back to making money. Remember our deal? We're getting another company public within 3 years. Don't you dare miss that target. You've already made a fortune, still chasing more money. Jocelyn and Tiffany looked at me with a hint of exasperation. I immediately nodded and said, "Of course, money is the ultimate security blanket." The 2 of them thought for a long moment before looking at me again. All right then, after all, the 3 of us are in this together. We'll follow your lead. I looked at them and couldn't help but smile. Thank you. That thank you was for their trust in me, and even more so for the genuine, heartfelt tears they shed for me after my death in my past life. This is true friendship. I know we will continue to move forward hand in hand, just as we have for the past 10 years. I believe that one day, the names of the 3 of us will shine brightly among the crowd. Extra story, I'm Vincent, Sherry's younger brother. I've resented Sherry since we were kids. Why did she get a wealthy grandfather and inherit a fortune beyond anyone's wildest dreams, while I'm stuck here, scraping by under her thumb? Is it just because my mother was the other woman? So I fought her at every turn, trying to squeeze more money out of her, but then everything seemed to change. My family was destroyed. I was cuckolded by that bitch Lotus, and I ended up spending the rest of my life in prison. But then, it was as if I suddenly remembered my past life, and I realized nothing was right. I was supposed to have inherited all of Sherry's estate. I was supposed to be the richest second-generation heir in the whole city. I should be throwing money around in the casino right now. How did everything change? Sherry is alive, yet I'm the one in prison. I wanted to test the waters, so I started playing the fool. Sure enough, Sherry came to see me. The cold, disdainful look in her eyes told me everything. She was reborn too. If only I had known. If only I had known, in this life, I will never follow Lotus and make an enemy of Sherry that way. I could still be the esteemed young Master Lu that everyone respects. On the night I decided to end my life, I overheard people talking about Sherry. Sherry is incredible. She already has 5 listed companies. It's her brother, the one locked up here with us, the one in the corner, still pretending to be crazy. A murderer, scum. What else did they say? My head is getting dizzier. I can't seem to hear anything anymore. And story 2, my mother speaks without thinking. After I passed the civil service exam, my supervisor came for a home visit. She told my supervisor, "Why would you even consider this girl? She's incompetent yet arrogant, looks down on your organization, and worst of all, she has a habit of stealing money. You really need to teach her a lesson." I ended up failing the selection because of that. I confronted my mom, demanding to know if she did it on purpose, but my dad and brother accused me of making a mountain out of a molehill and being inconsiderate. Later, I joined a multinational company where my supervisor tried to set me up on a date, yet my mom told the guy that I'd been dating since elementary school and had a whole parade of boyfriends. I offended my boss and lost my job completely. This led me to develop depression. My mother then went around telling people I had a mental illness, warning them to watch out in case I started attacking people with a knife. Unable to bear the gossip and rumors, I jumped off a building to end my life. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day my boss came for a home visit. "Lena, what do you think of this dress? I hope I won't embarrass you." Seeing my mother in that familiar red dress, I finally confirmed I had been reborn. In my previous life, I was just one step away from landing that stable job. The organization sent representatives for a home visit, and my mom eagerly volunteered to host them. I thought for such an important life event, my mom would take it seriously and not drop the ball, but the moment we sat down, she started running me down. "I really don't know what you see in her. She's incredibly lazy, sleeps till noon every day and can't handle any hardship at all." My mom always loves telling people about how I sleep in, but I never expected her to bring it up on such an important occasion. I discreetly tugged at her sleeve to remind her not to say anything inappropriate. To my surprise, my mom suddenly let out 2 loud laughs and called me out for my little maneuver. "Look at her, she's getting all huffy. You're about to become colleagues with the boss, and even if I don't say anything, everyone will find out about your bad habits sooner or later." She clapped her hands and continued, "Boss, my daughter graduated from a top university. When I first asked her to apply for your organization, she actually looked down on the opportunity. She's always had her head in the clouds. We're truly blessed that you're willing to take her on." The leaders exchanged uneasy glances. They probably had never encountered a parent who would speak about their own daughter that way during a home visit. One of them maintained a smile and said to my mom, "Lena performed quite well in the interview." "Oh, that was all an act." My mom waved her hand dismissively. "I know my own daughter better than anyone. Don't be fooled by her polished performance on stage. In private, she's actually quite petty. You probably can't tell, but when she was little, she stole money and cheated on exams." My heart sank at those words, and I called out to her with a dark expression. My mother shrugged and said, all right. The young mistress thinks I've put my foot in my mouth again." The home visit naturally yielded disappointing results. When they left, the faces of the leaders were grim. When the results came out, my name was indeed missing from the list. I made some inquiries and was told they had concerns about my character, deeming me unsuitable for a position in a state institution. It was then I realized that the home visit had completely shut the door on my chances of entering a state institution. I was furious and ended up having a big argument with my mother when I got home. "I told you to watch your words, but you just can't keep that mouth of yours in check." My mother looked utterly innocent. "I was only telling the truth. It must be because you didn't give any gifts and upset them, otherwise, how could they exclude you just because of a few words?" It's true that I sleep until noon every day, but that's because I've been preparing for the civil service exam since my sophomore year, and after graduation, I've continued studying at home under immense pressure. I finally got in after all that hard work, so I just want to unwind for a few days. I did steal money from home once, but that was back in middle school. A classmate was bullying me, threatening to hit me if I didn't give her money. I tried calling my parents but couldn't reach them, so I ended up taking the money. All mothers know this. I broke down sobbing and told her if she didn't know how to speak properly, she might as well donate her mouth to science. My crying drew my brother's displeasure. He came over and slapped me, saying, "How dare you talk to mom like that? Do you have to make such a small issue known to the whole world?" Later, my mother used the same tactics to sabotage both my relationship and my career. I ended up with depression, yet she told everyone I was mentally unstable. People started avoiding me like the plague, afraid I might snap and turn violent. Overwhelmed by the world's relentless cruelty, I jumped from a building on a sunny day. I never expected fate would grant me a second chance at life. This time, I'm definitely keeping my distance from Mom. "Lena, what's on your mind?" My mother's voice snapped me out of my thoughts. I straightened up and let out an "Oh no, Mom, I forgot, those people aren't coming today." "Mom, not coming." My mother was taken aback. "Why, seems like their meeting got postponed. They said they'll come in a couple of days. You should have said so earlier." Mom hurried into the room to change out of her dress, then sat down beside me and started watching TV. I glanced down at the time. With 2 hours left until the home visit, I needed to find a way to get Mom out of the house. A minute later, I took out my phone and sent a message to my aunt. Within minutes, my aunt called my mom saying they were short a player for mahjong and urged her to come over right away. My mom is a mahjong fanatic. I answered the phone and immediately headed out the door. Seizing the moment, I called my aunt and asked her to come over right away to help with the home visit. My aunt works in the public sector. Understanding the urgency of the matter, she dropped everything and rushed over as soon as I made the request. Compared to my mother, my aunt speaks with impeccable precision. She didn't overpraise me, but gave a well-rounded account of my personality and strengths. It was clear that the leaders were quite pleased. Finally, we stood up and my aunt and I saw our guests out. Just when I thought everything was under control, the moment I opened the door, I came face to face with my mom. Seeing so many people in the house, my mom froze for a few seconds. She quickly realized who the people in front of her were. She immediately asked, "You must be the officials here for the home visit. I'm Lena's mother, but you," afraid my mother might say something shocking, I called out to stop her. In front of everyone, I took her hand and led her down the stairs. "Your aunt just called. She wants you to come over for mahjong." My aunt immediately understood the hint and quickly ushered the officials into the elevator. I finally breathed a sigh of relief when I saw them leave without incident. Turning around, I was met with my mother's stormy expression. "I just got back from your aunt's place. How could she be calling me again? Why wouldn't you let me speak with those people? And why did you lie about them coming in 2 days?" I was just about to respond to her questioning, but Mom had already guessed, her face full of hurt. "Are you ashamed of me? Is that why you don't want me around? In my past life, it was those very words that made me relent and let her prepare for my parent-teacher conference. That's how they ended up in that situation." My mom loves sharing our family matters with outsiders. She speaks without filter. Whatever comes to mind just comes out. When I came first in my grade as a child, she'd tell people I cheated and didn't actually have what it takes to be top of the class. The whole school was buzzing about this incident, although the homeroom teacher eventually reviewed the surveillance footage and cleared my name. But even after I started junior high, some people still kept calling me Miss B as an insult. That nickname really got under my skin, so I ended up in a fight with the girl who called me that. But at school, my mom said I'd always been a troublemaker since childhood, and that girl had every right to hit me. After that incident, I was bullied by that girl for 2 years. It wasn't until she followed me home to get money, and after she took it, that I called the police. The girl was taken into custody. Her family came to apologize to me personally only because her father and mine work at the same company. My parents ended up forgiving her on my behalf. My mom says I'm too nitpicky. Like a stubborn mule. The nightmare only ended after that girl transferred to another school. I've had countless arguments with my mom over her gossiping about my personal life too, but every time, she'd act all hurt and wronged. Dad and my younger brother also sided with her, accusing me of being too sensitive and saying I can't take any criticism. What happened today broke Mom's heart all over again. She started crying as soon as we got home. "If you're so ashamed of me, then don't treat me as your mother anymore. Go ask your aunt to be your mother instead." I was so fed up with the nagging that I snapped, "If you can't fix this awful habit of running your mouth, I don't even want you as my mother anymore." My dad walked in right as I said those words. He stormed over and kicked me. "How dare you talk to your mother like that? Everything she does is for your sake. If you're so ashamed of her now, why were you so quick to ask for money before?" The kick landed right in my stomach. The pain was so sharp I broke out in a cold sweat instantly. Before I could say anything, my brother popped up too. "Exactly, sis, you're biting the hand that feeds you. Mom's always been like this. Without her fiery temper, our family would have been walked all over countless times. Mom never thinks before she speaks. It's not just when she talks about me, she tends to exaggerate and make up stories about others too. Because of this, many neighbors keep their distance from our family, afraid she might spin some tale about them, but Dad and my younger brother see it as a sign of her strong personality and actually take pride in it. In my past life, I often had to restrain my mother and make her keep quiet at critical moments for the sake of my father and brother. Since they believed my mother did all this for the good of the family, well then, I'd like to see how they'd handle it if my mother's words were directed at them. Whether they'd be as magnanimous as they claim. I rubbed my stomach for a long time before finally feeling some relief. I stood up and apologized to my mother. Mom, I was out of line. Don't worry, from now on, I'll make sure you're included in all the important family gatherings. I know you always have our best interests at heart, and I won't contradict you again. Hearing my apology, all three of them nodded in approval. My father especially took the opportunity to advise me. Your mother's words might be harsh, but honest advice is often hard to swallow. Learn to communicate like she does, and you won't be pushed around by your in-laws, I quickly said. Of course, Dad and my younger brother looked around the kitchen and realized Mom hadn't cooked, so they started making arrangements to go out and buy some food. After they left, I apologized to Mom again, saying it was my fault today, and Mom was brimming with confidence after Dad and my younger brother started to come out of their shells. And she told me triumphantly, "Let me tell you, even though your aunt works within the system, she's nowhere near as articulate as I am. If you mess up this civil service exam, don't you dare come crying to me with regrets." I murmured in agreement, once again lavishing Mom with effusive praise. "I already regret it. Mom, you're absolutely right. You're the one who should have been handling this situation from the start." Mom was getting carried away. "If you're really that worried, I can go have another word with your supervisor about this." I quickly waved my hands. "No, that's not necessary, Mom. You've got more important things to prepare for. Isn't Jace trying to become a police officer? They'll be doing a home visit in the next couple of days. You'll need to make a good impression." My younger brother has dreamed of being a police officer since he was a child. He even got into a police academy for college right after graduating from university this year. I signed up for the police exam the moment I learned about it. All those years of preparation paid off, and he made it to the political review stage. After what happened to me in my past life, I was terrified that my brother's lifelong dream would be shattered. I had multiple heart-to-heart talks with him and managed to keep the home visit under wraps. He successfully achieved his dream. I won't stand in the way anymore, not in this lifetime. I knew if I didn't stop Mom, she'd make a mess of things, but I never imagined it would be this bad. A few days later, the home visit team arrived right on schedule. This home visit is different from my last one. I can't be present myself without my brother's intimidating stares and my restraint. My mom completely let loose. "You might not fear death, but my son does. When he was little, even seeing a mouse would scare him stiff. I have no idea why you picked him. Are you that desperate for people?" Everyone in the room fell silent. I almost lost it, oblivious to the awkward atmosphere. Mom continued, "But our Jace has always wanted to be a police officer. He's loved guns and weapons since he was little. In middle school, he even built his own gun. That thing was so powerful it actually injured someone, nearly hit them right between the eyes. When I asked him later if he'd aimed or if it was an accident, the little rascal told me, 'Of course I aimed. See, he's really going places.'" The officers, who had merely been speechless before, now stared wide-eyed. "Ma'am, you must be talking about a toy gun, right?" The most distinguished-looking leader spoke up, as if trying to smooth things over. To everyone's surprise, my mother mistook his reaction for disbelief and immediately stood up. "That gun is still here. I'll show you right now." "Mom." My mother walked into the room. I noticed several people growing tense simultaneously, their expressions turning grim. One even moved a hand toward the small of his back. I sidestepped out of the way, thinking to myself that if things got out of hand, I didn't want to get caught in the crossfire. A minute later, my mom came out holding the gun. She presented it to the police officers like a prized possession, saying, "Look, this is what my son put together. Isn't it impressive?" Seeing the actual object, the officers let their guard down. "This is the air rifle my younger brother assembled. It may be an air rifle, but it's been modified." A police officer picked it up and examined it carefully, then asked with a stern expression, "Has Jace ever injured anyone with this gun?" Even my mother, oblivious as she usually is, could sense the tension in the air. He changed his story. "I wouldn't call it an injury, really, just scraped the skin and there was a little bleeding. That still counts as assault." The officer handed the air gun to another person. "Where's Jace now?" My younger brother had been staying in the small park downstairs the whole time. The officer told Mom to call him. Within 2 minutes, my brother came upstairs. He thought Mom had done such an outstanding job that the supervisor specifically wanted to meet him in person, so he immediately stepped forward with an enthusiastic handshake. "Hello, Captain, I'm Jace." The boss pointed at the air gun. "Is this yours?" My brother's face went pale, but he knew he couldn't lie. "It's mine. How did you modify it?" My brother was about to speak when the official cut him off with a wave of his hand. "Let's continue this discussion at the police station." The home visit was left unfinished, and my brother was taken away. My mother ran after them, shouting, "What are you doing? Why are you taking my son to the police station? This is basically an illegal abduction." The leader glanced back at my mother. I immediately cut his drift, grabbing my mother and covering her mouth. "If you don't want Jace to end up in jail, shut your mouth." My mother fell silent instantly. The police quickly got the full story. That air rifle was assembled by my younger brother during high school, and it did indeed cause an injury at the time, but it wasn't as my mother described. My brother didn't intentionally aim at anyone and shoot. He had just finished assembling the gun and was showing it off to a classmate. During a struggle over it, the classmate accidentally hit their head. My family made amends afterward, and the classmate chose to forgive us. The incident still had an impact on my younger brother due to illegal modifications. My brother was fined and detained. The day my brother returned, he smashed everything breakable in the house. He smashed things while yelling at my mom, "This is all your fault. Why can't you watch your mouth? If you don't know what to say, then just keep quiet." Mom got defensive again. "I was just telling the truth. Besides, I was trying to help you. I wanted to make a good impression on your boss, didn't I?" My brother snapped hysterically. "What kind of good impression is that? Why did you have to bring up my air rifle for no reason? I was keeping it as a collector's item. Now I'll never become a police officer. Are you happy now?" After breaking everything, my brother slumped to the floor and started sobbing. Years of hard work went up in smoke. I've been through that kind of pain myself. Seeing him like this gave me a secret thrill, and I couldn't resist adding fuel to the fire. "Jace, how could you speak to your mother like that? It's just a job. If you lost it, you can always find another one." My younger brother used to be the one saying these things to me. Now the tables have turned on him. He immediately burst into even louder sobs. The moment Dad walked in, he saw the complete mess all over the floor. His heart ached at the sight of his younger brother sitting on the ground crying, but he felt even more sorry for our mother. He said to his brother, "You can't entirely blame your mom for this. How would a homemaker know modifying firearms is illegal? She just wanted to showcase your skills." His brother choked between sobs. "But I'll never be able to get a decent job now. My brother's college major is too specialized. Now he can't find work in his field, and government jobs are no longer an option either. The only jobs left are in sales or security. Nothing particularly respectable." Hearing this, Dad chuckled and said, "Don't worry, I'll take care of your job situation." My brother froze in disbelief. "Seriously?" "Of course." Dad turned to my equally puzzled mom and explained, "Remember Rex from my workplace? He got promoted to section chief 2 years ago, and now he's up for department head." Mom asked, "You mean Sasha's father?" Hearing Sasha's name, I instinctively felt a chill run down my spine. The girl who bullied me in middle school was named Sasha. It just came back to me how I was adamant about sending Sasha to jail back then, but because her father promised to get my dad a permanent position instead of temporary work, my father forced me to sign a letter of forgiveness. Dad said he needed to secure a job for my brother. The reason is that he set Sasha up with a promising young man. That young man is the son of the director at a major local tertiary hospital. He works at the courthouse and is quite handsome. He's a friend of my dad's friend's uncle's son. My dad saw this guy's marriage ad in his social circle and sent over Sasha's photo. Surprisingly, they actually hit it off. Now they're getting engaged, and since my dad played matchmaker, he's naturally invited. My dad assured my brother, "I've been working on your job placement. Once their engagement is settled, you can start at my workplace." My dad works for a state-owned enterprise, which offers the best compensation package among local companies. Hearing this, my brother's gloom that had been building for days instantly vanished. The three of them decided to go out for a celebratory dinner, completely disregarding my feelings. I thought my dad had forgotten what Sasha did to me, which was why he'd grown so close with her family. After dinner, Dad suddenly said to me, "Lena, maybe you should skip Sasha's engagement party. Weren't you two on bad terms before? I'm worried you might feel uncomfortable if you go." So Dad knew exactly what had happened between Sasha and me. He even thought I might cause a scene at Sasha's engagement party, which is why he didn't want me to attend. Suddenly, I remembered my own engagement party from my past life. After my mom botched my civil service exam opportunity, I landed a job at a multinational company through my own hard work. I'd been working there for about 6 months When my supervisor set me up on a date, the guy was really impressive. He was a returnee from studying abroad, ran his own small business, and had even won international awards for his design work back in college. So when he said he liked me and wanted to get engaged, I was filled with apprehension. 3. Upon hearing about his qualifications, my parents didn't hesitate and gave their blessing. But right at the engagement party, while he was proposing a toast, my mother started listing all my shortcomings. Love is blind, I suppose. Our Lena isn't much to look at. But you don't seem to mind. When she said that, it was fine. Everyone thought she was being modest, but the next sentence completely ruined my engagement party. Don't let my Lena's plain looks fool you. She's had plenty of guys chasing after her. I don't know how she does it, but in college, she went from one boyfriend to the next, and there were even men fighting over her. Hearing this, my partner turned pale and asked me, "Didn't you say you'd never had a boyfriend before?" I was completely dumbfounded. Growing up, I had so few male friends around me that I never even had a boyfriend. I confronted my mom. "Mom, what nonsense are you talking? I'm not making this up. Don't you remember, in college, you brought a different guy home every week, and you'd stay in your room for hours each time? That was a side gig I took on, tutoring high school students on weekends. It wasn't all boys either. There were girls too." But no matter how I tried to explain, the other person refused to listen any further. After the engagement fell through, I confronted my mom about it. She threw up her hands and said, "How was I supposed to know you were getting extra tutoring?" After that, my reputation was completely ruined. At that thought, I took a deep breath, let it out, and said to my father with a smile, "Dad, that was ages ago. Since this is such an important occasion, let me come along too. Who knows? I might even get to meet some really influential people." My father was swayed by that. "True. Even that plain-looking girl Rex managed to land such a catch. Maybe you can reel in a wealthy bachelor for me too." Yet Mom instinctively put me down. "Why pin your hopes on her? She's so unattractive. What man would be blind enough to fancy her?" I told myself not to get upset. "You'll make yourself sick with anger, and then you'll miss all the fun." The day of Sasha's engagement arrived. Our family of 4 arrived at the restaurant right on time. Sasha seemed a bit surprised to see me. After all these years, she still remembers how I set her up to get caught, and now her father is my dad's boss, so the look she gives me is especially hostile. Even though she can't stand me, she didn't say much since today is a very important day for her. My father is the matchmaker, so we were seated at the main table. Seated next to my mom was the groom's mother. Everything went smoothly at first. Midway through the meal, Dad took my younger brother to toast other leaders from his workplace, hoping to get on their good side early. My mom struck up a conversation with the groom's mother. After just a few words, my mom started getting carried away. "Your son is so handsome. He looks like a movie star. Compared to him, Sasha seems a bit out of his league." Hearing those familiar words, the anxiety I'd felt all evening finally melted away. The groom's mother looked slightly embarrassed but still saved face for Sasha, saying, "As long as they're happy together, looks and status don't really matter, but character matters too." My mother told her earnestly. "Sasha comes from a good family, but she doesn't seem to respect herself much. She started dating in middle school and even threatened suicide over some boy." The groom's mother turned pale. Middle school, that's right." My mom nodded emphatically, having completely forgotten the occasion as she leaned in conspiratorially. "I heard she even got pregnant. That's why Sasha had to take time off from school." The groom's mother finally snapped, slamming her hand on the table and summoning Sasha and her partner who were toasting guests. "This engagement is off." The moment these words were spoken, the scene instantly descended into chaos. No matter what anyone said, the groom's mother refused to agree to the matter and resolutely took her son away. Half an hour later, the groom's entire family made a grand exit. Sasha rushed out in a panic to chase after them. My mother finally grasped the gravity of the situation and tried to sneak our family away. Just as we reached the door, Sasha came back in tears. The moment she saw my mother, she went straight for her hair, yanking at it. "It's you. Why are you spreading lies about me? What's your real motive?" Outside, the guy's mother saw Sasha sobbing uncontrollably and told her what my mom had said. My mom yelped in pain. "I was just telling the truth. Everyone knew about your middle school romance. How dare you claim I'm pregnant?" Tears welled up in my mom's eyes from the pain. "Aren't you? I only heard rumors. I never told her you definitely were." As the two of them went back and forth, everyone around overheard the whole story. My dad's face instantly darkened. Sasha's father looked even more furious. He shot a glance at my dad and said, "George, what on earth is going on here?" "My apologies, Section Chief. My wife speaks without thinking, but I'm sure she didn't mean any harm. If you can't control your tongue, you shouldn't have brought her out." As she spoke, Sasha grew even more unhinged. She slapped my mother repeatedly, making her cry out in pain. I knew your whole family was up to no good, damn it. My boyfriend's breaking up with me, and you're all going to pay for this. Sasha was still the same little punk from middle school, spewing a string of curses like it was nothing. She took out all her anger on my mom. It wasn't until my dad couldn't take it anymore that he stepped in and separated the two, but even so, the whole thing was completely over. 2 weeks later, Sasha's father was promoted to department head. My dad got fired over a minor mistake at work. The day he was laid off, my father drank heavily. When he came home, he pointed at my mom and yelled, "Do you even have a brain? What were you thinking, spouting nonsense on such an occasion? Don't you realize it's because of this that I lost my job?" Jace's offer fell through, and now we've got nothing to live on. The words hung in the air for as long as I can remember. My mother never had a job. When my father got laid off, it was like our family's financial lifeline had been cut. My mother started crying on the side. I had no idea it would turn out this serious. I just couldn't hold my tongue in the moment. Maybe I should go and apologize to them. Do you really think an apology will fix anything? It was the first time I saw genuine despair in my father's eyes as he looked at my mother. I spoke up in my mother's defense. "Dad, you can't put all the blame on Mom. If Sasha hadn't actually done those things, why would people spread rumors?" Hearing my voice, my father shifted his gaze to me and pointed his finger in my direction. The words hung in the air. "It was you, wasn't it?" I blinked. "What? You must have put your mother up to this." Dad suddenly shifted all the blame onto me. "I wondered why you were being so nice, wanting to attend Sasha's engagement party. Turns out it was for this dirty trick." For the angrier he got, the more he spoke, until he raised his hand to slap me. But he'd had too much to drink and was unsteady on his feet. I sidestepped and stuck out my foot. He fell flat on his face. He let out a pained ouch. I sneered, "You blame me for everything, but aren't you aware of how nasty your own wife's mouth is?" No sooner had I spoken than my brother, hearing the commotion, rushed out of his bedroom. Seeing our father on the floor and our mother in tears, he pointed at me and yelled, "Lena, have you lost your mind? Why are you bullying Mom and Dad?" I yelled at him, "Are you fucking deaf? They're the ones bullying me. The walls are paper thin." So my brother definitely overheard my conversation with our parents. He frowned and said, "What's the big deal if Mom and Dad criticize you? They feed you and put a roof over your head. That's their job as parents. You're still living at home without contributing anything, and you think you're above being told off." He acted all high and mighty. "Who are you to say we're still spending their money? I've been working part-time since college. Even when studying for exams after graduation, I used my own scholarship funds. You're the one who's contributed nothing to this family and still live off our parents." I didn't hesitate to tear down his facade. My brother flew into a rage. "You still live at home too. That's also mooching off our parents. If you've got guts, move out." "Fine," I agreed without missing a beat. "I'll move out then. I never planned on staying at home anyway. It's not like there's anything worth sticking around for here." Though it was getting late, we went back to our rooms and packed our things. When we left, not a single person even glanced my way. My mother sneered from the sidelines, "We haven't even done anything, and you're already disowning your parents. Even an animal wouldn't stoop so low." I ignored her and strode away. 2 weeks later, I received a call from my mother. She said my father had broken his leg and asked me to come to the hospital to take over her shift caring for him. I didn't know until I got to the hospital. After Dad lost his job, he had to work on a construction site to make ends meet, but having spent years in an office, he wasn't familiar with construction work. 2 days ago, he fell from a scaffold. My brother just started working as a bodyguard recently and can't get away, so my mom has to take care of things. After caring for him day and night, my mom's back injury flared up, and that's when she thought of me. "Since you're not working anyway, just take care of your dad for a few days," my mom said matter-of-factly. I said, "I'm actually doing some part-time work now. Shouldn't the construction site compensate us since Dad's in this condition?" Oddly enough, when she said that, my mom blushed. Upon further inquiry, I learned the construction site had initially intended to pay compensation, but during the negotiations, my mom revealed that my dad had violated safety protocols. Now they're only willing to cover some medical expenses as a humanitarian gesture, refusing to pay actual compensation. This outcome was expected. "I still don't want to stay here," my father snapped. "I knew raising a daughter was useless. I should have given you away back then." I nodded and said, "If raising sons is so useful, then why isn't your son here taking care of you?" Growing up, my father always favored sons over daughters. He'd buy my brother anything he wanted, but would ignore my requests completely even after I experienced bullying. At school, when the police told them to pay attention to my mental health, they brushed it off. My father was so angry his eyes bulged out, and he pointed at me stammering, you. Just then, the doctor came over. The doctor came to tell our family that a cancer patient would be arriving in the ward soon. It was an elderly woman. She had fallen while doing farm work, and tests revealed her bones were riddled with cancer cells. The family didn't want her to find out, so we checked her into a regular hospital room. The doctor told us to watch what we say and be careful. My mom agreed without hesitation. Seeing her like that, I had a bad feeling things were about to go wrong. No matter how much my father tried to guilt-trip me, I refused to stay at the hospital. That evening, just as I was getting ready to turn in, I received a call from the police. The officer told me my father had been beaten to death. It wasn't until I arrived at the police station that I found out, less than an hour after the elderly lady moved in. My mom told her about her cancer diagnosis. The shock was too much for the old woman. She had a heart attack on the spot. Her family immediately flew into a rage. As luck would have it, one hot-headed family member stormed in brandishing a paving slab and started yelling at my mother. My dad, who always dotes on my mom, stepped in without hesitation. But the guy was reckless and swung a brick with brutal force. To make matters worse, my dad had just broken his leg, and that's when things went south. When I saw my mother, she was sitting there as if her soul had left her body, her face deathly pale. The moment she saw me, she burst into tears. She wept while slapping her own face. It's all my fault for shooting my mouth off. I never thought that old woman would be so fragile. She slapped her own face repeatedly. Her brother stood against the wall, staring blankly at the sky. He looked utterly helpless and hopeless. The person who killed their father was sentenced. After settling my father's funeral arrangements, I completely lost contact with my mother. My younger brother also chose to leave home. 2 weeks later, the list of successful candidates for the civil service exam was posted. My name appeared on that piece of paper. Finally, the weight has been lifted off my chest. It had been a whole year before I saw my mother again. Truth be told, she had been calling me regularly throughout that year. She kept asking me to come home for a visit, but I always brushed it off. She even came to my workplace, but I always made excuses about being away on business trips. I also knew that after Dad passed away and my brother left home, Mom had to find work to make ends meet, but with no skills or experience, the only jobs she could get were as a nanny or cleaner. Somehow, against all odds, her very first employer as a nanny turned out to be a minor celebrity. The young celebrity rarely came home, and her only requests were for her mother to take good care of the dog and keep the house tidy, but she had no idea what her mother was really like. After becoming her daughter's housekeeper, the mother started gossiping about the star's private life to anyone who would listen. Coincidentally, a paparazzo who was digging for dirt on the celebrity happened to run into the mother in their residential complex. With just a few words, he managed to get his mother to spill the beans. Not only did the paparazzo post the story online, but he also released a video showing the mother's face to prove its authenticity. This incident had a significant impact on the minor celebrity. The minor celebrity sued both his mother and the paparazzo, insisting that his mother be sent to prison. So the next time I saw my mother was at the detention center. She was crying and begging me to get her out. I spread my hands helplessly, showing there was nothing I could do. What do you mean by that? You just don't want to help, do you? Don't you work for a government agency? You must know someone at the police station. I suddenly felt grateful that Mom got arrested. With comments like those, I'd have lost my job anyway. Staring at my mother, I said coldly, "Haven't you realized what you did wrong yet?" Mom frowned. "What do you mean?" I asked. "Do you believe in karma?" Mom snapped. "Are you mocking me? I'm your mother. How dare you speak to me like that? The only reason I've put up with you this long is because you're my mother," I said with a cold laugh. "Why are you still so insufferable? You crushed my brother's dreams, and your sharp tongue drove Dad to his grave. Can't you ever keep your mouth shut?" Mom's face went pale, but she still stubbornly retorted, "What's the point of bringing this up now?" "No point at all," I said, enunciating every word. "I just wanted to remind you, you deserve this." Mom kept yelling hysterically, "What good would locking me up do you? I'm a convicted criminal. Your career will be dead in the water forever." On that point, she was absolutely right. Having parents with criminal records does affect my current position. 5. Thankfully, I've never been one for climbing the career ladder. All I want in life is to take it easy and be content as a happy little office worker. In the end, Mom was sentenced to 3 years in prison. She didn't have it easy in prison either. Her big mouth got her beaten up more than once. She often wrote to me, begging me to get her out. 3 years later, when she was released from prison, her mind had already become unhinged. At the hospital, The doctor told me she had developed schizophrenia. I had no choice but to commit her to a psychiatric hospital, with no intention of ever letting her out, but the monthly expenses were a huge burden, so I had to turn to my younger brother for money. After my mother's accident, I had long since cut ties with my younger brother. Before I could even reach out to him, someone contacted me first. My brother was in a car accident while working as a bodyguard for a wealthy man. When the crash happened, his instinct was to shield his attractive female boss who was with him. My brother died as a result. The beautiful boss was very sad and gave my brother's family, which is me, $10 million in compensation. Looking at all those zeros in the bank account, well, at least mom's medical expenses are covered now. The end. Story 2. The apocalypse is upon us, and zombies roam the streets. Having died 3 times at the hands of zombies, I've been reborn for a 3rd time. This time, I've decided to use my father's inheritance to carefully survive right until the end, and I won't let anyone harm me. Violet, listen to your mother. You're still young, and you can't look after that much money by yourself. Let me handle it for you. I won't spend it. My mother's persuasive voice came from the other end of the phone. I had my phone on speaker, tossed aside on the couch, my expression cold and detached. It hadn't even been a month since my father passed away, and this woman was already eyeing his inheritance. I'm already 18 years old. I can manage what my father left me. You don't need to worry about it. I coldly rejected her. In my second life, I wasn't direct enough in my refusal, which made her think I was weak and easy to bully, leading her to forcefully take over my home when the apocalypse began. Why should a woman who divorced my dad and abandoned me when I was young be entitled to his inheritance? Violet, don't be stubborn. Your father spoiled you. Luna, it's none of your business how I conduct myself. Just take care of your son and your husband. I hung up after saying that. Ding ding ding, the phone rang again. Glancing at it, it was still Luna. I decisively blocked the number. The apocalypse was just 5 days away, and my time was running short. With the experience from my previous lives, I was no longer as panicked as before. First, I found a store on Meituan that sold German patented anti-price steel doors and requested that they install one as quickly as possible. Then I called a furniture store to order solar panels, a freezer, and thick curtains, with delivery requested to my doorstep. Because time was of the essence, I also called a water plant and ordered 100 barrels of drinking water, again with delivery to my home. As time was limited, I had to purchase everything I needed as extensively as possible, even though this might attract some attention. The first to arrive were the workers from the furniture store, who breathlessly carried a large freezer up to the 26th floor, then started installing the solar panels. There are 2 balconies in my home, a large one in the living room and a smaller one in my bedroom. I chose to install the solar panels on the large balcony to maximize the number of panels, ensuring ample power supply during the apocalypse. It was the first time the workers saw so many solar panels being installed privately, and they even complimented me on being energy efficient. Before the solar panels were fully installed, my security door arrived. Watching the workers handle the heavy door, I finally felt a sense of security. Such doors were incredibly valuable during the apocalypse, acting like an indestructible barrier against zombies. However, due to the dimensions of the security door, the original door of my apartment had to be removed, and a bit of the wall had to be broken to fit the new one. I was well aware of this and had prepared enough time for it. Ding ding ding. Hello, Violet, have you no conscience? How could you speak to Mom like that? It was my clueless brother, Dylan. Watch how you speak to me. I responded impatiently. What does my conscience have to do with you eyeing Dad's money? If you want money, ask your own father. Violet, she's your mother. You have a duty to support her. Dylan yelled from the other end. Oh, now you remember she's my mom, I retorted sarcastically. We haven't seen her in years, and people might think she'd already passed away. She's not old enough to need support, and I'm not at an age to provide it. Bullshit. You have so much money. That money is mine. I couldn't help but yell back at Dylan. It has nothing to do with you. If your dad can't provide, why come to me? Dylan, where do you get off thinking like this? You really are hopeless. I snapped at Dylan over the phone, my patience wearing thin. Do you even know how you were born? A mongrel daring to ask for my dad's money? Dylan, he ground out my name through clenched teeth just before I hung up the phone and blocked him. No sooner had I hung up on Dylan than the water plant called. 100 barrels of water are not light, and being in a high-rise, I couldn't just stack them anywhere. Following the advice of the water plant staff, I placed them in the study, where there were load-bearing walls. Is your house being renovated? My young neighbor asked as we moved the second batch of water. Why are you buying so much water? I looked at his sweet, innocent face, unable to believe he was a wolf in sheep's Clothing, yes, we're renovating. I'm going to have family stay over for a while, so we're redoing the place, I replied, trying to keep my expression neutral and forcing a smile. How long have you been on vacation? Just about half a month, Jason replied with a sweet smile. School ended early this year, and my dad wants me to find a summer class to attend. I nodded slightly, pretending to wipe sweat from my forehead to hide the cold look in my eyes. Getting some experience out there is good, yeah. I think so too, Jason agreed as the elevator arrived. Let me help you with some of those, he offered, eyeing the nearly full elevator of water barrels. No need, we're almost done, I declined, continuing to laboriously move the water with the staff. After all the workers had left, I suddenly stood up to tidy up, throwing unnecessary items from around the house into black garbage bags. Among them was a cute strawberry bear on the sofa, which I ruthlessly discarded, or rather, that was exactly my aim. Hidden inside the eyes of the strawberry bear were two tiny cameras, a gift from Jason. Had I not experienced several rebirths, and one death because of it, I would have never guessed such a cute item could house camera lenses. Jason, if avoidance was impossible, it was better to strike first. The next morning, I drove to the nearest supermarket. Though small, it was a popular place for locals. I headed straight for the grains section, buying 30 bags of rice and stuffing my car full before driving home to offload them one by one. To avoid drawing attention while stockpiling, I chose the most cumbersome but safest method. I parked in the underground garage, moved 10 bags of rice at a time to the elevator, and then transported them up to my apartment. I repeated this process until all the rice was moved without anyone noticing. Next, I drove to another supermarket, bought 30 bags of flour, and moved them upstairs in the same manner, just handling the rice and flour took up an entire afternoon. The following day, I rushed for breakfast and headed to Metro. The supermarket was bustling with no sign of the impending zombie apocalypse. I went straight to the instant food section, picking up 20 boxes of various flavored instant noodles, 10 boxes of turkey noodles, 10 boxes of self-heating rice, 5 boxes of self-heating hot pot, and a box of instant seaweed soup. These staple foods were the most crucial, everything else was secondary. Considering the need for seasonings to complement the grains, I also grabbed 10 boxes of cooking salt, 10 tubs of cooking oil, 5 boxes each of MSG and chicken seasoning, 2 boxes each of aged in white vinegar, hoisin sauce, tomato sauce, 3 boxes of bean paste, 5 boxes each of chili oil, soy sauce, light soy sauce, a box of Sichuan peppercorns, 5 boxes of chili powder, 2 boxes of brown sugar, 5 boxes of white sugar, and a box of rock sugar. With the seasonings stocked, I headed to the household goods section. I stocked up on various essentials such as masks, scissors, towels, toothpaste, toothbrushes, power banks, sanitary pads, hair ties, soap, laundry detergent, shower gel, shampoo, cologne, and more. I practically bought every daily necessity I could think of that I needed. Besides food, these items are also essential. I wouldn't want to have to venture out after the apocalypse over such matters. After purchasing these, I worried that continuing to buy more might draw attention, so I headed to Sam's Club and bought large quantities of frozen meats, 20 pounds of pig trotters, 30 pounds of beef backbones, 20 pounds of beef ribs, 30 pounds each of beef brisket and beef shank, 30 pounds of lamb, and 50 pounds of pork, including 20 pounds each of chicken wings, drumsticks, and feet. With that, my supply of meat was almost complete. My home's refrigerator and freezer were nearly bursting at the seams. Next on my list was to buy some seeds because, after all, there won't be anyone around to grow vegetables in a post-apocalyptic world. At the seed store, under the odd gaze of the shop owner, I bought seeds or seedlings of potatoes, carrots, white radishes, sweet potatoes, lettuce, Shanghai bok choy, water spinach, celery, lettuce, cucumbers, tomatoes, green onions, ginger, garlic, and chili peppers, covering almost all the vegetables I like to eat. Although I might not end up seriously farming them later, buying these seeds provided a backup plan and a sense of security. Of course, having seeds meant I needed tools, so I also bought coconut coir, flower pots, small spades, hoes, sickles, scissors, a multifunctional knife, nylon rope, lighters, additional power banks, batteries, and flashlights. Among other things, I bought everything I could think of to be prepared for any situation. I also needed to visit the pharmacy. Since many medications are prescription only and not easily sold, I mainly bought over-the-counter medicines like cold medicine, fever reducers, anti-inflammatory drugs, and gastrointestinal medicines, picking up a few other miscellaneous drugs where possible. Actually, shopping didn't take much time. The real-time consumer was moving everything quietly upstairs. Fortunately, I chose weekdays for the moving, encountering hardly anyone. On the rare occasion I did meet someone, I simply said I was a delivery person without revealing the actual floor. Finally, with just one day to spare, I got all the supplies back home now, for the last task, picking up Grandma. Growing up, my dad was often away for work, and Grandma practically raised me single-handedly until I moved to the city for school. After my father passed away, Grandma fell ill. With a zombie outbreak, her chances of surviving alone were slim. With enough time this round, I decided to bring her over. The reason I hadn't moved her earlier was that I feared her somewhat old-fashioned views might see stockpiling as a waste of money and hinder my plans. By arranging everything first and saving enough time to fetch her, it wouldn't matter what she thought. However, plans often don't align with reality. Grandma lived in a somewhat remote rural area near the mountains. After repeatedly calling her with no answer, perhaps due to her age and dislike for carrying a mobile, I drove back to the village. As I arrived, the familiar group of village ladies at the entrance became instantly abuzz at my appearance. "Ivy, have you seen my grandma?" I asked one of them I knew well. "I've been calling her, but she's not answering. She seemed to have headed towards the fields just now," Ivy pointed out. "Violet, are you here to take your grandma to the city?" "Yes," I nodded and smiled sweetly. "I'm worried about her living here alone without anyone to look after her." "Go on, then," Ivy responded with a relieved smile, then turned to chat openly with the other ladies. "This girl was practically raised by me too. Such a tough life. Her mother ran off when she was very young, and her dad was always out earning money, leaving her with her grandma, and just as she started university, her dad passed away. She seems to have some money though." "Yes, her dad worked himself to the bone." I couldn't hear the rest as I moved on. In the village, their conversations continued unabated. I've long since gotten used to it. The path through the fields definitely wasn't suitable for driving, so I parked the car in an open space and headed towards my family's fields on foot. As a child, my grandmother used to take me down to the fields, so I was fairly familiar with the path. Looking around, the fields were covered in lush green rice seedlings, with one or two people working among them. Such a scene would be impossible in a post-apocalyptic world. The air was mixed with the scent of earth and a hint of blood. Suddenly, I felt a bit uneasy. "Violet, you're back." My uncle noticed me standing on the ridge and greeted me warmly. "Uncle, have you seen Grandma?" I didn't have time for small talk. My mind was preoccupied with thoughts of my grandmother. "Your grandmother?" My uncle turned around, looking a bit puzzled. "She was just over there." My heart started racing, and I quickened my pace. Finally, in the verdant rice field, I saw my grandmother's stooped figure. "Grandma," I called out to her hastily. Hearing my voice, she looked up, her face breaking into a surprised and caring smile as she hurriedly put down her tools and walked towards me. "What brings you here?" I rushed over to support her. "Grandma, don't talk now, just come with me." "This child," Grandma laughed helplessly, thinking I was joking, but she tried to keep up with my pace. "Hey, who is that?" Suddenly, my uncle shouted, following his voice. I saw a person convulsing on the ground in the field. "The zombies were here." Without a second thought, I hoisted my grandmother onto my back and started running. For the first time, I was grateful that Grandma was so thin, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to carry her. "Violet, what are you doing?" Grandma, not one to miss out on excitement, asked me in astonishment. "Hold on tight to me, Grandma." I gritted my teeth and ran with all my might. Technically, I had come a day early to pick up Grandma because the zombie outbreak was supposed to start tomorrow, but from the looks of it now, it seemed likely that the zombies had spread from the surrounding rural areas into the city. Grandma, not understanding the situation, held me tightly. "Ah!" A horrific scream came from behind us. I glanced back. The mud-covered zombie was now clinging to my uncle, biting into him as my uncle stretched his hands towards me in shock and fear, but there was nothing I could do to help him. Meanwhile, two more zombies emerged from the rice field, lunging at the nearest farm workers, filling the air with screams and cries. "Yikes, Violet, what's happening back there?" Grandma, unable to see behind from my back, urged. "Quick, quick, let's stop and look." "No," I firmly shook my head, "we can't stop. If we do, we'll die." "Silly girl," Grandma slapped me lightly on the forehead. "What nonsense are you talking about? They're man-eating monsters." I continued to run, tears streaming down my face. As we neared the place where I had parked the car, Grandma seemed frightened by my words and silently let me run forward. About 200 meters from the car, I suddenly saw more zombies running towards us. About 500 to 600 meters from the car. Determined, I lengthened my stride, reaching the passenger side of the car at top speed. I opened the door, pushed Grandma in, and slammed it shut. By then, the zombies were only about 50 meters away. I couldn't waste a moment. I hurried around to the driver's side. Just as I was getting in and trying to close the door, a zombie reached it and held it open with its dark, bluish hands, making it impossible for me to close the door. Violet, Grandma, terrified, watched the zombie and me, unsure how to help. More zombies were catching up. I Clenched my teeth. You okay? What happened exactly? His voice was filled with concern. Zombies, real ones. They're like monsters that eat people and turn them into one of them, I explained, trying to keep my voice steady as I maneuvered the car with one hand, lighting a fire, shifting gears, and stepping on the accelerator. The zombie was flung to the side of the road by the speed of the car and rolled heavily on the ground. Violet, what is this thing? My grandmother asked me, her voice trembling with fright. It's a monster, one that eats people and turns them into monsters, I replied through gritted teeth, trying to navigate the narrow country roads. The entrance to the village we had just passed was now devoid of the gossiping women, replaced only by several zombies. Hearing the sound of the car, the zombies rushed towards me. The road was a narrow one-way, leaving me no room to turn the steering wheel. I had no choice but to grit my teeth and speed through. However, I underestimated the impact of the zombies. Several of them actually lunged at the front windshield and began pounding on it with their fists. Cracks quickly appeared in the windshield, and it wouldn't hold much longer. I was thinking about whether to drive into a flatter field to shake off the zombies and then get back on the road, when suddenly the passenger door was flung open. A zombie had grabbed the door handle and inadvertently opened the door. Violet, I quickly reached out one hand to hold onto my grandmother, afraid she would be thrown out. Fasten your seatbelt, Grandma, quickly. Grandma hurriedly reached for her seatbelt. Crack, a small hole appeared in the front windshield as a zombie on the hood was forcefully stuffing its hand through. Grandma stopped moving to fasten her seatbelt. Violet, could I possibly lure the monsters away if I get out? I was stunned, turning to look at Grandma in shock. No, you can't. Grandma gave a bitter smile. Silly girl, you've always been bad at lying. Now you've picked up your dad's bad habits, lying without even flinching. Before I could say anything, Grandma suddenly pulled her hand away from mine and jumped out of the car. Thump, I heard the sound of a body hitting the ground. The zombies entangled on the car were drawn by the noise, falling straight from the car and pouncing on my already battered grandmother. I wanted to stop the car, but seeing Grandma vigorously shaking her head in the rearview mirror, I suddenly pressed the accelerator hard. Perhaps it was out of a deep-seated selfishness and fear. Or perhaps it was not wanting to let down Grandma, who had sacrificed herself to give me a chance to escape. In any case, I didn't look back. I drove nonstop to the town. The streets were chaotic with people running back and forth. Many cars were forced to stop on the road. At that moment, there were still few zombies, thinking of not letting up on the accelerator and just crashing through. An SUV beside me made the decision before me. The SUV, with its stable chassis, continuously rammed the cars on the road, forcefully clearing a path. I quickly followed behind. Driving through the crowded streets inevitably led to hitting people, but the driver of the SUV didn't slow down at all, even after one person was hit and flew up, smashing onto my car roof before rolling to the ground. There was no chance of survival. For safety, I kept some distance from the SUV, fearing the driver might go mad and take me down too. The rest of the journey was smooth, and we didn't encounter any more incidents. The zombies probably hadn't spread this far yet. To prevent encountering this situation again, I bought some more lethal tools along the way, like an axe. When I got home, I suddenly felt utterly exhausted. I drew the heavy curtains, and the house darkened immediately. I turned on my phone, and there were a few messages on WeChat. One was from the high school deputy head of the class, asking if I wanted some beef. As his family had bought a bit too much, his parents and my dad were friends, living in the same community. He had taken good care of me during high school. Since my dad passed away, his parents often sent him to deliver things to me, probably thinking I had no one to look after me. After hesitating for a while, I decided to tell him about what happened in the countryside and sent him a photo of my smashed car. He quickly called me. Violet, are you okay? What happened exactly? This is no joking matter. The deputy squad leader said gravely. I'm not joking, I'm out shopping right now. Whether or not the zombies spread to the city, it's always good to stock up on supplies. After the COVID-19 quarantine, everyone got used to hoarding some supplies at home. Your grandma really? I paused, my tone somber. I couldn't bring her back. I truly hadn't expected the zombie outbreak to start in the countryside, nor had I imagined that my grandmother would sacrifice herself to try to secure a chance for me to escape. Deputy squad leader, hoard as much as you can, that's all I have to say. If it weren't for the fact that your parents have always taken good care of me, I wouldn't have mentioned this at all. As for whether or not you believe it or how much you believe, that's not for me to consider. After hanging up the phone, I lay back down on my bed. Unless something unexpected happens, by the time I wake up, the zombies will have spread to the city. I walked along the uneven ridges of the fields, surrounded by lush green rice paddies, with morning mist thick in the Air, faintly discerning figures moving in the rice fields. Hey, Violet's back. My uncle looked up and greeted me. Looking for your grandma, she's over there. Despite my uncle's cheerful face, I felt an inexplicable sense of unease and fear, but I still headed in the direction he pointed towards my grandmother. Grandma, I called out to the stooped figure moving in the rice field, and the figure suddenly froze. Grandma. Fear and anxiety magnified in my heart. Still, I walked step by step toward my grandmother. As the mist gradually cleared, I suddenly saw a zombie clinging to my grandmother's back, frantically gnawing at her neck. Run, was all I could hear her heart-wrenchingly scream at me. I turned around and saw my uncle, who had just greeted me, charging at me with a ghastly pale face, shouting, "Why won't you save me? Why won't you save me?" I couldn't dodge in time and was knocked down into the rice paddy, mud splashing around me, suddenly finding myself transformed into the initial zombie that had attacked my uncle. Startled, I suddenly opened my eyes. It was a dream, looking out at the dark sky. I wiped the sweat off my body, feeling conflicted. I even thought about dying once more, to start over, to go pick up my grandmother first and then prepare the supplies so that I wouldn't lose her. But remembering the image of my grandmother jumping from the car telling me to run, I dared not let her sacrifice be in vain, nor did I know if there would be another cycle of rebirth. I couldn't take that risk. In the end, I overestimated my physical strength, perhaps because I had lost the last relative I identified with. I slept through to the next morning, waking up to find my forehead burning hot and my clothes soaked with sweat. Alone in the large house, I suddenly felt like an isolated island. I got up, took some medicine with water, and made myself a simple sandwich. I turned on my phone to find over a dozen missed calls from the deputy squad leader and a few from his parents. Looking out the window, the streets were deserted. The zombie outbreak must have already occurred. To avoid alerting the deputy squad leader and his family with my phone's ringtone, I chose to text him to ask about their situation. He quickly replied that they had rushed to the supermarket to stock up on hearing my news, but encountered the zombie outbreak just as they were leaving. After a frantic escape, they barely made it back to their apartment complex and fought the zombies in the underground parking lot before safely bringing the supplies home. Worried because I hadn't replied to their messages, they were even considering coming over to my place. "I'm glad you're safe. I've also stocked up plenty here, so don't worry about me." I gently declined their offer. In a desperate situation, how could one easily trust human nature? If they came over and a conflict arose, there was no way I could overpower all three of them. It was better to survive on our own. I opened WeChat to find several messages and voice notes from my mom and Dylan. A quick glance told me all I needed to know. They mentioned a zombie outbreak and asked if I was still alive. Had I not lived through 3 lifetimes, I might have believed they were genuinely concerned about me. Unfortunately, they just wanted to know if I was alive, perhaps seeing an opportunity to take over my place. I didn't respond to them and instead started browsing through the trending topics on a social media platform. The feed was flooded with videos of zombie attacks, and more people were uploading videos, some even taking the chance to live stream the chaos. I clicked on the official page, which featured a video from an expert summarizing the virus's transmission and symptoms of the infected. The expert urged everyone to stay home and avoid going out, confidently stating that the virus would be controlled soon and that a vaccine would be developed quickly. It sounded very convincing. If I hadn't been reborn, I might have believed it. After some thought, I took a screenshot of the video and sent it to my deputy squad leader with a message. "Don't believe it. This virus won't be easy to combat and will persist for years. Stock up and stay indoors." The deputy squad leader quickly replied, "How do you know?" I didn't respond further. That was all I had to say. After finishing a sandwich, I tidied up the house and installed some soundproofing foam. My arms and legs were still sore, and I trembled uncontrollably even when picking things up. I filled a small basin with water, sprinkled some mung beans into it, and prepared to grow mung bean sprouts hydroponically. Today marked the official start of my life post-apocalypse. I placed the basin of mung beans near the windowsill, then went to the balcony where I laid out 3 layers of waterproof mats, spread out coconut coir on the floor, selected some seeds to plant, and watered them. Initially, I had imagined doing this with my grandmother, her planting the seeds while I assisted. Unfortunately, it was a sunny day, the temperature around 20 degrees, and I wore only a thin shirt. "Can I call you?" the deputy squad leader texted. "Not convenient," I replied firmly. "Text me if you need something." After a while, he sent a long message. It was clear that a lot of it was his parents asking him to thank me for the timely warning. I politely indicated that no thanks were necessary, then set my phone aside again. It was spring, a time of renewal, and the streets were eerily empty. Such scenes were rare, even during the new year. After finishing the sandwich, I warmed up a cup of hot milk, a habit my dad had instilled in me to prevent myself from being easily overpowered by zombies. I started creating a rigorous self-training schedule. Fitness was essential, so I pulled up my late father's treadmill from the study and began my quiet struggle on it. The zombie outbreak had just begun, and there were still many survivors. Community staff and property management began tallying the number of survivors in various groups. After much deliberation, I chose to keep silent. Being alone, if anyone with a bit of strength targeted me, I'd hardly stand a chance. Ding, a new message from the deputy squad leader popped up on WeChat. Did you see the message in the group? They need to register survivor information for possible future distribution of supplies. Want me to register for you? No need. I quickly replied, worried he might inadvertently cause trouble. I don't want others to know. I'm alone at home. A few minutes later, the deputy squad leader replied to my message, okay, just be mindful of the situation yourself. Soon after, I noticed that the names of the deputy squad leader and his family had been added to the information registration sheet. Everyone makes their own choices in such situations. At least he still has his parents, unlike my situation. I didn't feel it was my place to stop them. Meanwhile, the residents' group chat had erupted into chaos, with everyone asking when the property management would distribute supplies. Since a typical household's food stock could last about a week, social media was filled with cries for help. It was quite a scene. While scrolling through social media, my neighbor Jason suddenly sent me a message. Sis, are you at home? After hesitating for a while, I chose to remain silent. It was better if they thought I had turned into a zombie or wasn't home at all. I didn't want too many people to know I was actually at home. The next day was somewhat bland, perhaps because it was only the first day, and zombies had not yet appeared in our community. I tried to download movies and novels on all the electronic devices at home, preparing for potentially boring days ahead. On the second day of the zombie outbreak, City Z was completely paralyzed. The government attempted to deploy the military to control the situation, but to ensure the safety of survivors, no large-scale lethal weapons were used, allowing the zombies to gain the upper hand. Online, more and more people began to express their anxiety, cursing and complaining. Initially, because people didn't understand the behavior of zombies and made noise, zombies directly barged into their homes. Several families in the building opposite mine faced such incidents. Even those trying to maintain order, like police officers, community workers, doctors, and nurses, were infected by the zombie virus and became part of the zombie horde. With this, the number of zombies grew exponentially. On the third day, while watering my plants on the balcony, I noticed many more zombies in the community, including the security guard from the front gate. Experts online began urging everyone to stay indoors, claiming the severity of this disaster was beyond anyone's imagination and that it could turn into a prolonged war. City Z was already under lockdown. In a prolonged war, one must rely on the food stored at home, but now that all potential helpers like police and community workers had turned into zombies who could provide supplies online, more and more people started asking for help, but many chose to venture out in search of supplies. By the fourth day of the outbreak, order began to collapse. From my balcony, I saw several people sneakily leaving the community to raid supermarkets for supplies. The first household to venture out was quite far from me, in Building 4. Since there weren't many zombies in our community, they managed to slip out relatively smoothly. With the success of the first household, others couldn't hold back. The next group to leave came from different floors. The more people that went out, the bigger the noise, and the higher the chance of being caught by zombies. One family was unfortunately overrun by zombies and also turned into zombies themselves. This sparked an intense chase within the community. The number of zombies in the community visibly increased. Ding. The deputy squad leader sent another message. Do you have enough supplies? Living alone, I have enough, I replied succinctly. The deputy squad leader's family was probably also considering going out to find supplies. Although they had prior information, their preparations might not have been as adequate as mine. He seemed to understand that I didn't want to interact much with them and didn't bother me further. However, some people got smart and drove straight out of the underground parking garage, although the noise of the cars also attracted many zombies. They were quickly outrun. On the fifth day, more people went out, but very few managed to safely bring back supplies. The vegetables on my balcony had sprouted somewhat, especially the sweet potatoes, which were thriving. The mung bean sprouts on the windowsill had also grown quite a bit, and they should be ready to eat in a few days. These days, I tried to eat all the fresh vegetables and meat in the refrigerator. Somehow, my mom found out I was still alive. She messaged me daily, even though I didn't respond. She continued to cry and even threaten me. As the days went by, 15 days after the zombie outbreak, the water supply at home was cut off just as I was covered in shampoo suds, so I turned to our reserve water supply. I glanced at my phone and saw that the residents' group chat was in uproar, everyone questioning why the water had suddenly stopped. The property management, now turned into zombies, had only left a few underlings who were struggling to ask everyone to wait a bit longer. With the water gone, I knew the electricity would probably be next. I sent a message to my deputy squad leader. Looks like the power will go out soon. Charge all the electronic devices you can at home. Got it. The deputy squad leader replied quickly. I had solar panels installed at my place, so we won't be completely out of power. I hadn't known about the solar panels at the deputy squad leader's home, but having them might not necessarily be a good thing. Don't let others know you have solar panels once the power goes out. A man is not guilty for possessing a gem, but the gem itself can bring him guilt. In a world without electricity, those solar panels could attract envy and theft. I had experienced this several times, but the deputy's family had not. Okay, I understand. I'll talk to my parents, and, thank you, you're welcome, I replied politely. By the way, has your mom contacted you recently? Why? I suddenly had a bad feeling. My mom and the deputy's mom used to work in the same company and were quite close, but had gradually lost touch. She called my mom, asking about you. She seems really worried. I took a deep breath, surprised that Luna would reach out to the deputy's mom to inquire about me, and more surprised that this act of kindness from the deputy's family could bring me an intractable problem. Tell your aunt that if she asks about me again, just say I was bitten and killed by zombies when I went out. My tone was angry. I hope you don't pry into my family affairs without knowing the full story. It took several minutes before the deputy squad leader messaged back. Okay, I understand. I'm sorry. It won't happen again. I didn't reply to his apology, nor did I want to deal further with a family that could potentially burden me. When I opened my mom's chat, the last message said that they had run out of supplies and she, along with Dylan and his dad, would be coming to my place. She also threatened to bring zombies to my door and block it if I refused to let them in. I turned and sent a screenshot of this to the deputy squad leader, showing him the stupid thing he had done. Standing by the window, watching the zombies below, my face gradually darkened. The security at the entrance of the complex had already collapsed, and the main gate had even been broken open by people going out for supplies. If my mom and the others were to come, I couldn't rely on the complex's original protection. After hesitating, I dug out some pork and pig entrails from the freezer, let them thaw in water, and the strong smell of blood began to spread. To prevent attracting zombies, I wiped down the kitchen with alcohol and vinegar before placing the thawed pork in the fridge's fresh section. I thought Dylan and the others would hesitate for a day or two before coming over, but to my surprise, my mom called me on WeChat that evening. I dared not answer, and soon after, the call ended and she sent another message. She said she was coming soon and asked me to open the door when she arrived. I never imagined there could be such a shameless mother in the world. About half an hour later, a black sedan charged into the complex with 2 or 3 zombies clinging onto it, crashing right up to my building. The noise instantly attracted the zombies within the complex. The car stopped under my building, and the passengers quickly got out. One of them, wielding a baseball bat, fiercely swung at the attacking zombies. It was Dylan. Trouble had indeed arrived. Before they could make it into the apartment building, I hurriedly grabbed the thawed pork and pig innards from the fridge and threw them, basin and all, towards the building entrance. After tossing everything, I quickly shut the window. With a loud crash, the basin plummeted from the 26th floor, shattering as it hit the ground. The pork slammed into the pavement, sending innards scattering in all directions, nearly dousing Dylan's father in blood. Shocked, they looked up but didn't catch a glimpse of me. A woman nearby, too agitated to curse, rushed to the door and dialed her phone. As expected, my phone vibrated. I picked up the call, hearing my mother's anxious and fearful voice. Quick, open the door, we've arrived. Silently, I stood by the window, watching them struggle awkwardly against the zombies below. Open the door, my mother screamed desperately, but her shouts only attracted more zombies and did nothing to persuade me. Apologize. I dropped the smirk on my face, suddenly serious. Luna, you owe me and my dad an apology. Violet, you've gone mad. My mother cursed after a pause. I am your mother, your own mother. Ha, I scoffed coldly, watching them dispassionately. Luna, if you don't apologize today, I'm not letting you in. Violet, do you have no conscience? I gave birth to you, and you, of course, I have no conscience. I cut off my mother's scolding. You didn't want my conscience, so I might as well have fed it to the dogs. Violet, even though Dylan and his father were protecting her. A zombie nearly grabbed my mother's head, making her voice tremble in panic. I apologize, Mom. Dylan's stern voice came through the phone, stopping her. What are you afraid of? We don't need her permission to enter. Then, Dylan began to forcefully smash the door to the building with his baseball bat. This left almost all the fighting to Dylan's father. I wasn't sure about the door's structure, but I knew my father chose this house for its security, so, despite Dylan's efforts, the door remained unbroken and Dylan's father seemed to say something to him, prompting Dylan to give up on the door and turn to help share the burden of fighting. My mother, powerless to break the door, could only pull out her phone to call me again. Hello, Violet. Mom was wrong. Mom shouldn't have abandoned you, shouldn't have betrayed your father. Violet, open the door, or we'll all be eaten by zombies. My mother sobbed desperately, and I vaguely heard Dylan cursing me on the other end. What else? And, I shouldn't have favored your brother, shouldn't have. Luna, my expression darkened instantly. What brother is he to me? Violet, my mother's voice was full of pleading. Mom was wrong, truly wrong. Wrong where? Wrong everywhere. Blame me, don't blame your brother. At that moment, I felt utterly exhausted. She still hadn't realized where she went wrong, so even if I were momentarily kind-hearted, she would likely revert to her old ways. Perhaps, at this moment, she thought her biggest mistake was giving birth to me, assuming I would let them in, wondering why she hadn't killed me sooner. Luna, give up, I'm not letting you in. I no longer wanted to tease them. The bloody lessons of the past were all too clear. How could I dare let them in only to push me towards the zombies? Violet, I've apologized. What more do you want? My mother cried desperately, grinding her teeth, as if she wished she could break down the door and kill me herself. I don't want anything anymore. I hung up the phone, tired of listening to my mom's rambling. Dylan, seemingly cursing under his breath, killed a zombie and then started climbing up the building using debris piled next to it and an air conditioning unit on the first floor. I hadn't even realized there were things piled up by the building. I watched as Dylan reached the second floor window and reached out to pull my mom up. My mom struggled to climb up like Dylan. At that moment, Dylan's dad was slowly losing his strength and couldn't fend off the attacking zombies, nearly getting bitten. Both Dylan and my mom shouted back at him. With no other choice, Dylan's dad started climbing toward the second floor. Dylan, holding tightly to my mom's hand, tried to pull her up first, but his dad, after reaching the air conditioning unit, fearing that the climbing zombies would grab him, reached out and grabbed my mom's leg instead. For a moment, Dylan bore the weight of two people at the window, almost being pulled out himself. I couldn't make out what they were shouting, but I guess they were both trying to persuade Dylan's dad to let go temporarily and pull my mom up first, otherwise neither could make it. But with life and death hanging in the balance, Dylan's dad wasn't easily persuaded. He clung tightly to my mom's leg, even arching his own legs to avoid the zombie's grasp. Dylan, still quite young, was holding on impressively, but slowly the gravity started pulling him outward. If this standoff continued, the only outcome would be all three of them falling into the jaws of the zombies. As expected, the situation was quickly resolved. I turned away, grabbed a peach, and continued watching the dramatic scene unfold. My mom, pulled slowly downward by Dylan's dad, kicked out in panic, unable to hold back her fear, with zombies grabbing at his feet and his wife kicking at his hands. I faintly heard Dylan's dad curse before my mom kicked him down. He fell from the air conditioning unit into the crowd of zombies below, immediately followed by screams. The zombies, naturally, relished the unexpected feast, which meant they stopped reaching for my mom, and Dylan, crying, quickly pulled my mom up, and they disappeared through the second floor window. I didn't look back at the fate of Dylan's dad, instead turning my thoughts to our building situation. There were also zombies in our building, brought back by people who had gone out for supplies a few days ago and turned before they could get home. But I wasn't sure if the zombies had noticed Dylan and my mom. I sat next to the sturdy security door, axe in hand, expression grave. Although the door was a heavy-duty German anti-tamper model, needing 3 or 4 people to move it, it wasn't completely foolproof. If Dylan resorted to unconventional methods to get inside, I had to be ready to strike immediately. In these apocalyptic times, order had collapsed, and I couldn't bother with law and order anymore. Time slowly passed, and the hallway remained eerily quiet. Being on the 26th floor, it was a strenuous climb. I wasn't sure if Dylan and my mom could make it safely to my doorstep. Suddenly, I thought I heard zombie growls and chaotic footsteps. As the footsteps grew closer, my heart raced. They seemed to have locked the safety door, temporarily holding back the zombies, before rushing toward me. Bang, bang, bang. Loud knocking and my mom's cursing came from outside the door. The door was so thick I couldn't hear clearly. Soon, the curses turned into pleas. A bad feeling crept over me, and I stood up to look through the peephole. Sure enough, Dylan was trying to pry open my door with some thin wires, while my mom, tearfully melodramatic, kept her eyes on Dylan's actions. The sound of zombies pounding on the door grew louder, the door looking like it wouldn't hold much longer. Dylan, unable to open the door, punched it in frustration. When did she lock this door? I can't open it. Even my dad couldn't open it. My mom looked distressed. I don't know, left with no choice. My mom had to call me again. Violet, can you please open the door? It's safe here. You won't get bitten by zombies if you open the door. My mom finally stopped commanding me every time she spoke. Mom promises you, just let me and your brother in, and I'll give you whatever you want. Please, let us in. It's not safe out here. Forget it. I've already said I won't let you in, and I meant it. Outside. My mom cried desperately, trying to kneel down with Dylan at the door, while I stood firm, unwilling to open it. Suddenly, a door across the hall cracked open, revealing half of Jason's face. Auntie, would you like to come over here and hide? Jason looked timid, but he was actually 2 years older than Dylan. My expression instantly turned cold. I had been hurt by my mom and Jason before, separately, but I never thought this time Jason would bring them into his place. My mom glanced at my securely shut door, then at Dylan. Dylan hesitated, looking at the door to the safety corridor, but finally, he gritted his teeth and agreed. They had nowhere to go and couldn't just keep waiting outside. I watched as Jason let them into his apartment, giving me a meaningful look before closing his door. Only the zombies' growls and banging on the doors were left in the hallway. I returned to the sofa, pondering what they might be up to, although I didn't know why Jason let them into his home, considering how long it had been. It was likely that Jason's supplies were running low. He probably wasn't acting out of kindness but couldn't afford extra mouths to feed. For the next few days, there was no sound from across the hall. I continued my routine at home, watering plants, cooking, exercising, waiting for the day Jason couldn't hold back any longer. One day, as I was switching from a thick quilt to a thin blanket in my room, 2 small stones wrapped in paper suddenly landed on my balcony. I remembered that Jason's room and my balcony were adjacent, though his only had a window, no balcony, and no way to physically climb across. I didn't rush out to pick up the stones but first tidied up my room. The weather was getting hotter, and summer seemed to have arrived earlier this year. In the afternoon, I quietly went to the balcony and picked up the stones. Sis, do you still have a lot of water? Could you spare a bucket for me? The day I was moving water, Jason had seen me with the water plant workers, so although he wasn't sure about food, he knew I had plenty of drinking water. Since the power and water cuts, signals had been completely lost, and phones could no longer receive messages. It was quite something for Jason to think of this way to ask for my help. I rewrapped the stones in paper and placed them back on the balcony as they were. Silence and ignoring were the clearest forms of rejection. The next morning, I woke up to find a few more stones on the balcony. Not knowing when Jason had thrown them, I glanced at Jason's window, now shut, and picked up the new stones. Sis, we've run out of water at home. Please help me. Sis, is that woman really your mom? Why does she dislike you so much? Sis, won't you really help me? I won't hurt you. I looked coldly at these pleas scribbled on the notes, and like yesterday, wrapped the stones in paper and put them back in their place. On the third day, the words on the thrown paper had become agitated, even subtly threatening, but now, my living space was like a fortress, and I didn't feel he could really do anything to threaten me until he threw a finger onto my balcony. I initially thought Jason had thrown another stone, but when I finally had time to check the balcony, I found a finger tied to a stone. It had been a month since the zombie outbreak, and during these 2 months, almost all the survivors in the neighborhood had gone out looking for supplies, but I had never seen Jason leave his house. One would think that even if you have a large supply of rice at home, it should have run out by now. When I saw that severed finger, a bizarre an eerie thought suddenly crossed my mind. With the recent rapid rise in temperature, I worried that the rotting smell of the finger might attract zombies, so I threw it off the balcony. Just as I was about to turn back into the house, I saw Jason staring intently at me through the window. Having not seen him for a month, his face was pale and listless, his lips were dry and peeling, but his eyes still showed an unusual ferocity. Looks like you're doing quite well, sis. My face changed color. I glanced at the curtains to make sure I hadn't revealed any supplies inside the room, and softened my tone. We'll be out of food after a couple more meals. Jason gave me an eerie smile. Can I borrow a bucket of water, sis? I glanced into his room with sudden wariness and shook my head firmly. I can't do that. Before Jason could react, I quickly added, the 2 people you saved have grievances with me. I can't possibly give you water because of them. I implied to Jason that my refusal was Because of those two people, Jason paused, seemingly taken aback. Aren't they your mom and your brother? My expression turned cold instantly. My dad only had me. Where would I get a brother from? As for mom, she's just a woman who betrayed my dad. After saying that, I stormed into the house and slammed the door shut. Once inside, I let out a long sigh of relief and sat on the edge of the bed. That night, there was a heavy rain, as if heaven couldn't bear to see so many survivors die of thirst. The rain brought a glimmer of hope for many during the stormy night. Some slept peacefully, others celebrated, and some committed crimes. The next morning, the sky was still overcast, but the rain had stopped. I casually boiled a pot of hot water and made myself a small serving of spinach porridge. The lettuce on the balcony was thriving, lush and green, awaiting my harvest, along with the potatoes and sweet potatoes. I still habitually glanced at my phone, which still had no internet. Holding the small bowl of porridge, I stood by the window and opened it a crack, letting the fresh air rush into my nostrils. Suddenly, I saw a drone flying towards me, with a small bag hanging from it, which had steadily landed on my balcony among the vegetables. I remained cautious and did not interfere, waiting for about 30 to 40 minutes until the drone's battery was nearly drained before I retrieved it from the vegetables. Inside the bag was a note, surprisingly from the deputy monitor. His father had suddenly developed a high fever last night, and they only had enough medicine for 2 doses left. He was asking if I had any spare medicine to help them out. After our last unpleasant encounter, I hadn't expected the deputy monitor to come to me for medicine. I cautiously covered the drone's camera, not wanting even his familiar family to know that I still had plenty of supplies. Looking at the drone as it powered down, I hesitated for a moment before deciding to send a box of medicine to them. The deputy monitor's dad, a jolly man with a beer belly who used to be my dad's best friend, even took charge of many arrangements after my dad passed away. Seeing him suffer from an unrelenting fever, I couldn't bear to leave him unaided. Besides, using the drone could avoid many risks. I put the medicine in the bag, charged the drone, and placed it back on the balcony, ready for the deputy monitor to notice and control it back to his place. Perhaps someone noticed this scene, as suddenly many drones started appearing in the neighborhood, as if everyone had suddenly started a barter era. It must be said, drones indeed play a significant role in these end times. Of course, because of the drones shuttling around, I had no choice but to draw the curtains on my balcony. It would be quite a scene if someone discovered I was still growing bok choy at home after harvesting a few bunches of spinach. I suddenly noticed a drone flying past my balcony and stopping in front of Jason's window. Jason leaned out of his window, pulled a piece of paper from the drone's bag, and just when I thought he was going to barter with it, he suddenly grabbed the drone and smashed it against the wall, shattering it into pieces. The window snapped shut. Perhaps Jason's action served as a deterrent. The drones no longer flew as recklessly as before, and there were even fewer around my floor. The bartering didn't last long, as everyone was running low on supplies, turning the drones back into tools for conveying messages. Later, the assistant squad leader controlled his drone to fly over a few more times, asking if I wanted to join them in searching for supplies. After I declined, he asked if there was anything I wanted him to bring me. I could sense that the assistant squad leader understood my reluctance to interact with them too much, but he didn't want to remain in my debt forever. Their group emerged fully armed from head to toe, albeit simply, from various buildings, which made them a bit safer. I watched as they executed their plan. 2 of them drove a car, honking all the way to attract zombies out of the neighborhood, while other cars followed closely behind searching for supplies. This significantly reduced the number of zombies in the residential area. By evening, the group returned, but of the 5 cars that had left, only 3 returned, and they were short 4 or 5 people. The assistant squad leader and his father were lucky to return with bags full of supplies, and the group dispersed back to their respective buildings. The supplies they found should last them quite a while. That evening, as I was deciding between instant noodles and cooking a meal, someone suddenly knocked on my security door. My heart raced as I rushed to the door and grabbed an axe. Through the peephole, I saw Jason standing at the door, ringing the bell. Over this period, Jason's cheeks had hollowed out, revealing high cheekbones, making him look frighteningly thin. Naturally, I dared not open the door. Jason rang the bell several times and, seeing that I wouldn't open up, kicked the security door violently. The noise of his kicking attracted the attention of zombies in the security corridor, forcing him to take one last look through the peephole before turning back into his apartment. I stood by the door, feeling uneasy. Jason was not a good-natured person. In a past life, he used a hidden camera in a teddy bear to monitor my home and used his seemingly innocent appearance to trick me into opening the door, eventually driving me to Jump from a building. This just goes to show the ruthless nature hidden beneath his facade. Back in my room, I sat on the bed, nervously opening a small slit in the curtain to keep an eye on the balcony. However, after 2 long hours, there was no unusual activity on the balcony. Hungry, I decided to cook something for myself. Living alone meant my supplies lasted a long time, and I occasionally made snacks, though they often went uneaten and spoiled in the fridge soon after. A life without interaction is dull, monotonous, and lonely. As the loneliness prolonged, I couldn't help but chat a bit more whenever the assistant squad leader's drone flew over. But to let loneliness drive me to let Jason, my mom, or Dylan in, that was utterly out of the question. I was lonely, not foolish. Letting them in could endanger my life. However, my mom and Dylan had been in Jason's place for quite some time, and I hadn't seen them come out for supplies. I wondered how they were doing. This summer was exceptionally hot. I had swapped my thick quilt for a thin blanket and a bamboo mat early on, but I still often woke up from the heat in the middle of the night. The unbearable summer often spoiled the vegetables left out overnight on the table. By the next day, due to the high temperatures, there was a strong stench of decay that seemed omnipresent. Initially, I thought something had spoiled inside my home. It wasn't until I went to the small balcony planning to plant more vegetables that I noticed the foul odor had grown even stronger. It appeared to be emanating from Jason's place. Could he have died in there? Curiosity got the better of me, and I peered towards Jason's house, only to be startled by his face suddenly appearing at the window. He looked even thinner than the last time I saw him through the peephole, and his eyes were darker and more menacing, like a wolf baring its teeth after shedding its sheepskin disguise. I hesitated for a long time and decided not to open the curtains again. Jason had left a profound negative impression on me. I simply didn't dare confront him directly. For the following days, I kept the doors to my small balcony and my room tightly shut, moving to another room to avoid the relentless stench of decay. The small potatoes on the balcony were ready to eat, although not very large. I couldn't resist digging them up. I washed them and made mashed potatoes, adding some seasoning. This was much better than cooking in the heat. After the deputy squad leader's family brought back supplies from a trip and made 2 secretive outings, bringing back quite a haul each time. The deputy even sent me some supplies via drone. Although I wasn't short on supplies at home, I accepted them to avoid raising suspicions and felt obligated to reciprocate the favor. I gathered the remaining small potatoes and put them in a bag to send back with the deputy squad leader's drone during its next visit. The items were few but precious in these apocalyptic times. The deputy squad leader's family seemed pleased, especially his mother, who energetically waved at me upon seeing the potatoes. Potatoes grow quickly and in abundance, significantly alleviating the food shortage if cultivated properly. As days passed, the temperatures gradually dropped, and the rotten smell from Jason's place began to fade. I put away the electric fan and planned to move back to my room. Then, something unexpected happened. Since the evenings were cooler, I would open the small balcony door after dusk and draw the curtains. With no light shining through, nothing seemed amiss, but it allowed me to hear noises from Jason's place more clearly. At first, there were quiet sounds of quarreling which I thought might be between my mother and Dylan, with Jason, possibly over the stress of food brought by them, a significant issue for Jason who couldn't possibly overpower both. I assumed it was just a dispute over uneven resource distribution, but the arguing escalated, and I even heard sounds of things being smashed. Had they completely fallen out? I knew from the start that Jason didn't have good intentions in sheltering them, but I hadn't expected he would keep them for so long. Their noises weren't very loud, but in this silent world, any sound could attract a zombie horde. I guess zombies were probably banging on the stairwell doors again. I figured many were woken by the noise, but everyone kept their lights off and windows closed, avoiding drawing attention. Without the means to defend oneself, seeking entertainment in such events could only invite disaster, especially since there were instances of homes being breached by zombies attracted by lights at night. Shortly after the outbreak, as I was contemplating moving to another room to sleep, Jason's window was opened. Unable to contain my curiosity, I stealthily cracked open the curtain just a bit. By the moonlight, I could vaguely see a figure on the windowsill, wielding something resembling a club. I couldn't tell if it was Jason or Dylan. The fighting continued, and the person on the sill seemed to be losing strength, taking several hits in succession. Just when I thought he was about to be pulled back inside, he suddenly leaned backwards. "The hell with it, I'd rather feed the zombies than give it to you," he exclaimed. In that moment, as his head tilted back, I saw his face clearly. It was Dylan, thinner than Jason, his face covered in bruises. He looked so disheveled, as if he had just emerged from a refugee camp. It seemed that in that instant, he saw me too, a hint of tears glistening at the corners of his eyes, and then I couldn't see him anymore. He fell like a meteor, vanishing into the dark night, crashing heavily to the ground. Bang! I couldn't bear to look any longer and quickly let go of the curtain. From downstairs, the faint howls of zombies could be heard. Jason next door seemed to curse something under his breath and shut his window, sitting at the corner of my bed. I pondered over Dylan's last words. What did he mean by not even feeding the zombies? What had Jason done to make Dylan prefer jumping from a building over continuing to live? I remembered the smell of decay from some time ago and realized that during the recent fight, I hadn't heard my mother's voice. My heart suddenly began to race. Indeed, the apocalypse reveals the darkest aspects of human nature. The next morning, I glanced out from the window to the balcony, only to see a gruesome scene of scattered flesh and splattered blood below. The deputy monitor had once flown his drone over, mentioning he saw what seemed like lots of meat hanging in Jason's house. Who could have so much meat in these end times? I didn't directly answer the deputy monitor's question, simply advising him to prepare his family as resources were dwindling daily, especially suggesting that his drone shouldn't come by too often. Afterward, the deputy monitor indeed stopped operating his drone near here. Days passed, and it gradually turned to autumn. The sweet potatoes on the balcony were ripe, and they tasted sweet when steamed. It had been a while since the deputy monitor's drone had come by. I actually wished I could send some sweet potatoes their way. There's not much meat on a person. After all, Jason had managed to stretch that little bit of meat from summer into autumn. Lately, he had been bothering me more frequently, sometimes even knocking on my door at midnight. I didn't know what he might do. I could only stay alert by the door. Finally, when I could no longer sustain my vigilance, Jason chose to leave. He left just as dawn was breaking, and I was half asleep. The sound of the door closing woke me instantly. Through the peephole, I saw Jason place a note at my door. Then he left carrying the baseball bat Dylan had once brought. I wasn't sure how Jason managed to get through the zombie-infested safety corridor, nor did I know what he had written in the note he left for me, but since the note was from Jason, and there were only our two families on this floor, unless Jason took it back himself, it wouldn't just disappear, so there was no need for me to risk opening the door just to read a meaningless note. I sipped on some soy milk, looking down from the window. About half an hour later, Jason left through the building's main door. When he encountered the pile of corpses at the door, he deliberately avoided it. He made sure to tread lightly, skirting around the zombies from a corner, his back burdened with a large backpack as he moved out of my sight. Although I didn't know if Jason would cause trouble outside, the fact that he didn't stay here was good news to me. All I needed to do now was wait for rescue. However, the peace was short-lived, and I saw Jason again. This time, it wasn't me who spotted him. It was the assistant platoon leader who controlled a drone to tap on my window. Glancing at my watch, it was 3:10 a.m., and a sense of alertness surged within me. The assistant platoon leader wasn't one to disturb me rashly. I quickly got out of bed and brought the drone inside. There was a note in the bag. Your neighbor is opening the doors to the units. Startled, my drowsiness instantly vanished, and I hurried to look out the window. The curtains at the assistant platoon leader's home were half open, and I could vaguely see someone waving at me, gesturing for me to look down. Indeed, I saw a thin, black figure opening a unit door. Was it Jason? After Jason left that day, he never returned, and I thought the zombies had gotten him due to a lack of supplies. But there he was, alive, and he had keys to the unit doors. Right, not only the door he was opening but the doors of other buildings were also unlocked. He must have not gone out for supplies these past few days but instead went to the property management to somehow get the keys to all the unit doors. Jason was about to reach the entrance of the assistant platoon leader's building. The zombies were hidden somewhere, unknown, and any sound would crazily draw them over. I quickly wrote back to the assistant platoon leader, ignore him, stuff all gaps in doors and windows that can transmit sound, and hide in your rooms, keep quiet for the next few days. The assistant platoon leader's home couldn't be soundproof like mine, so all I could do was advise them to lay low and not attract the zombies. After all, their door wouldn't withstand a prolonged zombie assault. I thought about throwing something out like last time to attract the zombies to Jason, or at least draw attention to him so someone might stop him. But first, when the outbreak had just begun, throwing meat or supplies made sense since people still had resources to understand. Now, if I threw meat again, I might become the target. Secondly, Jason was still a distance away from my building. The zombies here might not notice him. Moreover, Jason was cunning, and I feared my actions might provoke his vengeance. Although the security door was safe, it wasn't foolproof. My suspicions were confirmed. Besides me and the assistant platoon leader, others had noticed Jason's actions. Needless to say, Jason's act of unlocking all unit doors would only incite rage. He was literally opening doors for the zombies. As dawn began to break, someone finally took action to avoid detection by zombies. Jason usually stuck close to the walls. As he was about to unlock another door, a flower pot suddenly fell on him. The pot grazed Jason's head and smashed onto his shoulder, causing immediate and profuse bleeding. As the pot Shattered, zombies crazily pounced on Jason. His frail figure couldn't outrun the frenzied zombies, especially since he didn't even try to run before being overwhelmed by zombies. I could even hear his maniacal laughter. He wanted to drag everyone down with him. He was more terrifying than the zombies. Jason's actions shocked all the survivors in the building. His behavior, like a spark, slowly, gradually burned away the last locks in people's hearts. More and more people, desperate to survive, began to turn on each other. People who went out together to find supplies came back only to have their items taken by companions and were pushed towards the zombies. Families who suffered together became food for the strong. Many people's doors were pried open, not by zombies, but by other humans. It felt like the real apocalypse had finally arrived. The deputy squad leader's family had been hiding solar panels, which were eventually discovered. Due to his frequent use of drones, people suspected that his household still had electricity. His door was broken into as people tried to loot his home. Luckily, his family was well prepared and managed to fend off the attackers. When I saw the note from the deputy squad leader, I felt a wave of desolation. The weather turned cold again, and the city, unaccustomed to snow, was now covered in it. The zombies seemed to freeze and huddled under the snow, forming small mounds. Some seized this opportunity to scavenge for supplies, and their chances of returning safely had increased, but the resources found were pitifully scarce. The only good news was that the National Army seemed to have secured the surrounding areas, and occasionally, we could faintly hear the sound of artillery. Just a little longer, and we would see dawn. It had been almost a year since the zombie outbreak began, and I hadn't expected it to last this long. Recently, more people had targeted the deputy squad leader's home for the solar panels as the cold made everyone desperate for warmth. Having electricity was synonymous with warmth. After 3 brutal fights, the deputy squad leader's family decided to abandon the solar panels, throwing them out of the window. Although I wasn't sure if the panels were damaged, they were quickly taken by someone. Without the panels, the deputy squad leader's home lost its power, and in the severe cold, survival became even more challenging. Without electricity, the drones also ceased to function, and I lost track of the specific situation at the deputy squad leader's house. All I could do was hope for a swift rescue. Yet, some still believed that even without the solar panels, the deputy squad leader's family must have other supplies. Despite hearing the artillery and hoping help was near, some still committed crimes, showing the darker side of humanity. When I noticed the trouble, the deputy squad leader's family had already been driven out, injured and desperate. To avoid attracting zombies with the scent of blood, they quickly treated their wounds and headed towards my place. They wanted me to take them in. I knew they had nowhere else to go and that I was their only hope, but I was still apprehensive. There were many zombies along the way, but the deputy squad leader and his father managed to arm themselves with branches, which, although not lethal, gave them a fighting chance against the zombies. When they reached my building, the deputy squad leader was the first to climb up using debris and the external unit of an air conditioner. Then he turned back to help his mother. His father covered the rear to guard against any sudden zombie attacks. After his mother climbed up, his father reached for the deputy squad leader's hand to pull himself up. Their coordination was seamless, and they didn't abandon anyone. Soon, they disappeared from my sight, and I, in that moment, was tormented inside. The last shred of my conscience told me I should let them in. They had nowhere else to go, and rescue was imminent if we could just endure a little longer. Yet, the unease in my heart also reminded me of what had happened before. Human nature is fragile, and although they had shown me great kindness since the outbreak, who knew if they would turn on me upon seeing my supplies? I couldn't take that risk. I hoped they would survive, yet I was reluctant to be their savior. Dad, from inside the building, I could faintly hear the deputy squad leader's desperate cries and his mother's sobs. I knew all too well what those cries meant. Enough. I convinced myself, if the deputy squad leader and his family could safely make it up here, I would let them in. If not, it wasn't my fault. After nearly a year, I opened the heavy security door for the first time. There was still Jason's last note at the door, which I quickly took inside and casually placed on the shoe cabinet. The footsteps in the hallway started to grow louder, and the pitch-black corridor was devoid of any light. I suddenly remembered that Dylan had locked the emergency exit door, but then it occurred to me that Jason must have used the emergency exit when he went down, so the lock must have already been opened. All I needed to do was calmly wait for them to arrive. Mom, hurry, hurry, we're almost at Violet's place. I heard the deputy class leader's labored breathing and speaking. A sharp scream from a woman echoed through the hallway. Mom, run. The deputy class leader's mother. I paused and looked in the direction of the emergency exit. A familiar figure swiftly entered through the emergency exit. As the Deputy class leader came in. He quickly shut the door behind him. I hurried out to help lock the door. The banging of zombies trying to break through the door started again. Deputy class leader, go back. I looked up in shock at the deputy class leader, who was now in tears, with a fresh scratch on his hand. Don't you understand? Get back. Seeing that I didn't react, he pushed me hard and then collapsed to the ground. I clenched my teeth, turned around, and ran back to my home, slamming the heavy safety door shut. Violet, I'm sorry. I've still caused you trouble. I crouched by the door, not daring to respond. Not long after, a faint growling sound came from the deputy class leader, who was sitting outside. He had also turned into a zombie. I hadn't expected this, really hadn't. I had even convinced myself to accept them, but none of them survived safely. I looked out the window. The foggy sky looked like it was going to rain again. Yes, it should rain, to thoroughly wash away the sins of this world. I fell ill again. Perhaps it was the shock from the deputy class leader's final act of not lying to me, leaving himself outside the door. Perhaps it was the fear of being cast out and devoured by zombies, or perhaps it was holding on to that slight hope for too long. I had a high fever for several days, waking up in a daze, taking advantage of the moments of clarity to eat and take medicine. After being sick for about 3 or 4 days, I was awakened again by the sound of artillery. Outside, the snow had quietly melted away, and the cold kept me from daring to open the window. The zombies downstairs seemed to have disappeared, either drawn away by the sound of the artillery or wiped out by the military. I could only see many people cheering and waiting for national rescue. Outside, the deputy class leader's growling continued. He had turned into a zombie and was still trapped here after being left outside our building, listening to the sound of artillery. He was restless, growling, banging on walls and doors, trying to break out. After being sick, I felt weak and really needed to replenish my strength. I took out a large piece of beef and lamb from the freezer to thaw and picked some bok choy and a white radish from the balcony. I made lamb vermicelli soup and stir-fried spicy beef cubes, cooked the white radish in a soup, and stir-fried a plate of bok choy. Since the zombie outbreak, I rarely cooked such lavish meals. Being alone, it was convenient to eat simply, and cooking too much would just waste food. But now, I devoured the spicy beef cubes and bok choy, and drank quite a bit of the white radish soup and lamb vermicelli soup, filling my stomach completely. Looking downstairs, I saw military troops approaching our area. I walked to the door and looked through the peephole at the deputy class leader. He was still so agitated. He fell before dawn. Perhaps he never expected that rescue was so close to us. In the evening, the sound of artillery gradually stopped, and even the gunfire was sparse. Someone knocked on my door. Hello, is anyone there? We are from the military. I slowly opened the door. Our eyes met with the person in military uniform outside the door. Is it just you? He asked, slightly taken aback. I nodded, my gaze falling on the deputy squad leader's body on the ground. At this moment, a conspicuous bullet hole was visible on his forehead, from which dark red blood was seeping. The survivor from apartment 602 in building 6 is a bad person. They were driven out of their home. The soldier followed my gaze to the deputy squad leader on the ground. All right, I will report this to my superiors. Thank you. I stepped back, withdrawing my gaze. Comrade, the zombies nearby have been cleared, but to prevent any unexpected incidents, please try not to go outside. Wait for the latest updates from the government. Okay. I nodded and slowly closed the door outside. They dragged away the body of the deputy squad leader. To prevent the virus from leaking again and mutating, all zombies were to be systematically destroyed. On the shoe cabinet by the door, there was a note from Jason. I reached out and picked up the note. They all died because of you. You cursed devil. A devil? Me? No. It's you. All of you. I gently tore the note into pieces. Why does this calamitous end bring out the worst in humanity? I don't understand. A month later, the internet was restored, as were electricity and water. I stepped outside my home for the first time. The once thriving city and the familiar streets were gone, replaced by desolation and bleakness, marked everywhere by the remnants of the disaster. The sunlight shone on the faces of all the survivors, while those who were less fortunate had vanished completely from this world. Story 2. As the record-breaking heatwave struck, my mom promptly moved into my house along with her new husband, her beloved stepson, his wife, and herself. They overtook my house, consuming the supplies my husband had painstakingly stocked up, and their words were chillingly harsh. Sweetheart, the food we have is hardly enough for so many people. You and your husband are young. You should go out and fend for yourselves. You can't possibly still depend on your parents at your age, can you? My husband and I were practically kicked out and succumbed to the scorching heat outside. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself tied to a luxury hotel. Inside the hotel, the temperature was pleasant, and supplies were unlimited. Everything was replenished as soon as it was Consumed, this time, I would sit in an air-conditioned room, eating chilled watermelon, letting my mother and her family experience the agony I went through in my past life. The temperature is about to break historical records. Please prepare for the extreme heat. As the news broadcasted a high-temperature warning on TV, I was stunned by the date displayed on the screen. I had been reborn. The pain of burning skin and a fiery throat from before my death had not yet subsided when I grabbed the water jug from the table and drank it greedily, feeling somewhat relieved. Thinking of my husband who had died with me, I picked up the phone to call him back, but it rang before I could dial. It was my mother. In my past life, she had called around this time too, complaining about frequent power outages due to aging electrical lines in the old district and how she couldn't sleep because of the heat, asking to come stay with me to escape the heat, feeling sorry for her suffering without air conditioning at her age. I agreed to let her come alone. However, I hadn't expected her to bring her second husband, her stepson, and his wife along. They saw my husband wasn't home and brazenly took over the house, relegating me to the living room. As soon as my mother's stepson Arthur entered, he headed straight for the master bedroom. "Darling, how do you like this room? We'll live here from now on." Myrna happily toured around, scooping up all the skincare products from my vanity into her arms. "Sis, you have so many skincare products you couldn't possibly finish them all. You wouldn't mind lending them to me, right?" I watched angrily as they took over. "This is my room." But then my mom sharply pinched my arm, smiling sweetly at Myrna. "Don't mind at all. We're all family here. Whatever you see that you like, just take it. No need to be shy." I looked at my mother in disbelief, but she suddenly changed her tone, scolding me fiercely. "You ungrateful thing, if I don't call you, would you not even check if I'm dead or alive? Even if I died from the heat, you wouldn't care, would you? Myrna is carrying my precious grandson now, and she's very delicate. The master bedroom will belong to her and Arthur, your father, and I will just manage with the second bedroom. Go and start cooking in the kitchen. Take a look at the time. Are you planning to let us guests cook for you?" I couldn't hold back and retorted, "That's not my dad. My real dad passed away long ago, and if they're staying in the master bedroom, where am I supposed to sleep?" My mom slapped me across the face in anger. "You're defying me now. From now on, Anthony is your dad, and Arthur is your real brother. If you still recognize me as your mom, go cook now." Seeing this, Anthony hypocritically came over, patting my mom's shoulder to comfort her. "Look at you, still so hot-tempered. Don't scare the child." He then turned to look at the living room sofa, pretending to be considerate. "Dorothy, your mom's getting old. Don't argue with her. Look how spacious this living room is. This genuine leather sofa is more than enough for 2 people. You can sleep here tonight." That day ended with us at odds. Reflecting on how my mother raised me alone after my father's death, I couldn't bring myself to be harsh with her. I swallowed my pride, prepared a feast, and tried to mend fences. I thought to myself, it's just for a few days. They'll leave once the heat wave is over. But I hadn't anticipated that the weather would grow hotter each day. I sensed that something was off with the weather and planned to head to the supermarket early to stock up on supplies. However, when I shared my plan, my mom exploded in anger. "Dorothy, do you think money grows on trees? Why hoard? The vegetables won't even last in this heat. You should use that money to take care of your mother and make her later years more comfortable." Arthur, sipping on a cold beer, added fuel to the fire. "Exactly. Can you stop overreacting to every little thing? It wasn't easy for mom to raise you, yet you never seemed to buy her anything nice, just wasting money." Myrna, in a whiny tone, chimed in, "Oh, sister, your house is so nicely furnished. These appliances must have cost a fortune." Alas, I don't have your luck. With a baby on the way, I'm still stuck living with our parents in the cramped, old district. "Oh, now you like my house. Who mocked me for buying in this remote business district when I got it? Your sister's house is as much yours as hers. Maybe we should switch places. Let her live in the old district and we'll move here. It doesn't matter to her anyway since she doesn't have kids." My mom decided this for me, unfazed, completely ignoring my shocked expression. "This house was bought with my husband's and my savings. They didn't contribute a dime. What right do they have to claim it?" I immediately objected, and my mom scolded me for being disrespectful. Arthur kicked me to the ground, viciously threatening, "If you dare argue with Mom again, believe me, next time I'll kick you to death." The apocalypse hadn't even officially started, and we were already at each other's throats. Yet, even then, I held on to some hope for my mom, never imagining she had already conspired with them to kill me and take over my house. Eventually, heartbroken, I drove out alone to stock up, only to discover that prices had skyrocketed and people were panic buying. I struggled to secure some water and food, hauling it home trip by trip. When I returned, I found them enjoying the air conditioning and snacking on seeds, completely ignoring my sweaty, exhausted state. It was as if I was just a hired hand. During dinner, I made just 3 dishes, thinking we should conserve food given the shortages, but Myrna started crying pitifully. Sis, I know you don't welcome us, but you don't have to be so cold. How is this little food enough, even if I can go hungry? My baby can't. My mom glared at me, slammed her chopsticks down, marched into the kitchen, and brought out the beef and pork I had bought. Eat, if it runs out, she can go buy more. We can't let my grandson go hungry. I tried to explain the soaring prices and shortages outside, but they wouldn't believe me, convinced I was just being stingy. I urged them to go outside and see for themselves that I wasn't lying. Arthur sneered, trying to trick us out so you can lock us out. Better stop playing games, or I won't be nice. They ate lavishly, and soon all the food was gone. By then, temperatures had soared above 50 degrees, making it dangerous to even step outside, yet my mom didn't care and insisted I go out to buy food. At a critical moment, my husband Ben returned, bringing food he had purchased on the road. After Ben and I brought the food inside, my mom and Anthony promptly pushed us out the door. My daughter, this small amount of food is not nearly enough for so many people. You and your partner are still young. You should go out and find your own food. You can't still rely on your family at this age, can you? I pleaded with my parents for a long time, crying and asking my mother why, especially since I am her biological daughter, yet she still refused to open the door for me. Eventually, it was Arthur who, annoyed by my crying, gleefully told me, I'm also Mom's biological child, something you didn't expect, right? Of course, as a son, I'm more important than you. As for you, you might as well go to the underworld and join our short-lived dad. Haha, that was when I realized that my father's death years ago was not an accident. It was my mother and Anthony, her lover, who had killed him. I was filled with rage but was powerless to do anything about it. My husband and I, in utter despair, had no choice but to leave. After struggling for 3 days, we ultimately succumbed to the extreme heat. Hey, daughter, the Old Town area has had another power outage, and it's unbearably hot. Let me come and stay at your place for a couple of days. I was about to refuse when a mechanical voice echoed in my mind, Congratulations, host, for binding with the Apocalypse Hotel system. This system is dedicated to creating a comfortable environment in the apocalypse in exchange for gratitude points. Realizing the situation, I quickly changed my response. Of course, Mom, but I just moved in and things aren't fully set up yet. Give me a couple of days to prepare, and then you can move in. My mother happily hung up, and I hurriedly called my husband, falsely claiming there was an emergency at home to get him to end his business trip early. Hearing his voice made tears uncontrollably fall from my eyes. In my past life, he had returned with supplies to save me, but I ended up causing his death. This time, I was determined to protect him. From now on, he would be my only family. As for my blood-sucking mother and her family, this time I planned to personally ensure their demise. Following the system's directions, I went to a nearby hotel address. What was an empty lot just yesterday now stood a towering skyscraper of over 100 stories, a sight to behold from afar. As I entered the building, I noticed a significant coolness within the hotel area compared to the outside heat. A robotic AI receptionist approached me with a greeting as soon as I arrived. Welcome, master. I will now guide you on a tour of your hotel. The interior of the hotel was much larger than it appeared from outside, each floor spacious enough to accommodate thousands of people. It also featured various amusement facilities, restaurants, and shopping centers, with all resources readily available and automatically replenished by the system. It was like a miniature city. As I was still in shock, the mechanical voice in my mind spoke again. Host, the hotel is now activated. You may check in at any time. You can set your own customer admission and pricing standards, and all profits are yours to keep. The system only collects gratitude points from guests. Gratitude points, I would need to carefully select my guests. Without hesitation, I chose the top floor of the hotel as my residence and set the admission standard to kindness index above 80 points. The machine to measure the kindness index was placed right at the hotel's main entrance by the system, meaning that anyone not sufficiently kind couldn't even enter. The hotel's shield was so strong that even missiles couldn't penetrate it. After setting everything up, I listed our house for sale at a low price through a real estate agent. The agent, seeing the low price including furniture and appliances, decided to buy it himself. I agreed with the buyer to hand over the house in 5 days. I heard that the real estate agent had connections everywhere, and was quite influential. Now I'm not worried that when the time comes, my mom and the others will cling to the house and refuse to leave. The next day, after completing the property transfer procedures, I packed up everything belonging to me and my husband, and moved it all to a hotel, to prevent my mom and the others from detecting any flaws. I even placed some low-quality daily necessities and skincare products around the house. Everything was ready, just waiting for my mom to bring that whole family of scoundrels over. My husband arrived back in the middle of the night, looking utterly exhausted from his journey. As soon as he entered the door, he hugged me and asked what had happened at home. I hugged him back and checked to make sure he wasn't injured. Finally easing the worry in my heart, I drove him to the hotel, and on the way, I briefly and shockingly told him about the rebirth and the system. His eyes were red with anger, but he never doubted me. Even though the story sounded incredible, he chose to believe me. We had a big meal at the hotel restaurant and then rested at the hotel. Early the next morning, I went back home alone and decided not to tell my mom that my husband had returned. Taking advantage of their absence, I installed hidden cameras all around the house to monitor their activities without any blind spots. Near noon, there was a knock at the door. As soon as I opened it, my mom pushed past me and entered, muttering complaints. "It's such a hot day, and you didn't even think to drive and pick me up, just enjoying the air conditioning at home. You really have no conscience." Arthur and Myrna acted as if they didn't see me and didn't greet anyone. They headed straight for the master bedroom and started rummaging through things. After finding nothing of value, they reluctantly came out. "Mom, Myrna is pregnant and it's inconvenient for her, so we'll stay in this master bedroom since it's spacious," they said. My mom quickly agreed, and Anthony started moving their luggage into the second bedroom. It looked like they never planned to leave. They had set their sights on my house before even arriving. "Mom, didn't you say you were coming alone? Now you've brought so many people, there's not enough room for everyone." I looked sternly at Arthur and Myrna. In my past life, I put up with it all for the sake of my mom. Now that I know she intends to harm me, why should I care anymore? Even if they don't leave, I can't let them live comfortably. Upon hearing this, my mom's eyebrows shot up. "What do you mean by that? I raised you for nothing. Huh? Now you're unhappy that your dad, your brother, and his wife are staying for a couple of days." I rolled my eyes. "My dad's 6 feet under. What is he supposed to be to me? Did he give birth to me or raise me? Also, I don't recall my dad having another son." My mom leapt up with a shout and tried to slap me, but this time I wasn't about to stand there and take it. I quickly dodged, her face full of disbelief. She pointed at me. "You beast, no wonder you didn't want to drive to pick me up. You just didn't want us to come. I told you to come, not to bring a bunch of freeloaders. Besides, I had to sell my car to make the mortgage payments, so how could I have driven to pick you up?" I changed the subject. "By the way, Dad left quite a bit of money when he passed away, since I'm his only daughter. Mom, why don't you take that money out and help me with the mortgage? I'm barely making ends meet here." Before he died, my dad was a businessman and we were somewhat well off. After my mom and Anthony caused his death, they quickly got married, and surely the money ended up in their hands. "What money? Your dad died in debt. He didn't leave a dime. You won't even give me money, but you expect me to help. Are you still thinking about taking my retirement money? I can't believe I raised an ingrate." My mother threw herself to the ground, sobbing loudly as she slapped her thighs in despair. Meanwhile, Arthur pretended to help her up while never missing a chance to blame me. "After all your mother has done for you, you treat her like this? Are you even human? Hurry up and cough up all the money she spent raising you." That just made me laugh. After my dad passed away, my mom remarried immediately and dumped me on my grandmother. I got a free ride in school because of my good grades, and I even earned scholarships every year. My mom never contributed financially. When my grandmother died during my college entrance exam year, I worked part-time to pay for my university fees and living expenses. I scoffed. "You want money? Sure. Ask your mom if she ever gave me a dime for tuition or living expenses." Hearing that, my mom went pale and struggled to her feet, muttering, "No matter what, I gave birth to you. You owe me your respect. Yes, you gave me life, but I had already repaid that debt in my past life." Anthony and Arthur, still shameless, settled themselves comfortably in our house, setting the air conditioner to a chilly 18 degrees and lounging on the bed. Seeing my displeasure, for once my mother didn't force me to cook for these wretches. They ordered takeout for lunch and didn't bother me at all. At night, Arthur tossed my pillow onto the couch. "You sleep in the living room, and keep it down at night. Don't disturb my wife's sleep." Myrna leaned against the doorframe, smirking. "Yeah, sis, I'm pregnant and I wake up at the slightest noise. Try to be quiet when you're in the living room." Then she turned and affectionately clung to my mom's arm. "Mom, your grandson is craving sweet and sour ribs, boiled fish, and spicy shrimp." The two of them acted as close as a real mother and daughter, a contrast to the distant relationship I had with my mother. Every time I tried to get close, she would push me away, annoyed. I used to envy other kids with their loving mothers and thought maybe if I tried harder to be better, my mom might like me, but deep down, she despised me and my dad and would rather have us out of her life. My mom coughed loudly to get my attention. We're out of groceries. Go to the nearby supermarket and buy some ribs, fish, and large shrimp. Of course, we were out of groceries. We hardly had enough rice for a few days. I held out my hand to my mom. Sure, give me the money, I'm broke. Just as she was about to erupt, Anthony held her back and pulled out 500 yuan from his pocket, handing it to me. We've troubled Dorothy enough by staying here. We can't let her pay for more, he said. I took the money and walked out without looking back. As soon as I left, I turned on the household surveillance app on my phone, and sure enough, I heard them bad-mouthing me. Arthur complained irritably, Mom, when are you going to make Dorothy transfer the house to me? I can't stand her. My mom's face fell. She used to listen to everything I said. I don't know what's gotten into her today, always opposing me. Could she have found out about what happened back then? Anthony sounded uncertain. No way. It's been so many years, and if you don't tell and I don't tell, who would know? If she knew, she wouldn't have let us stay. I think Ben must be stirring things up, turning that wretched girl against me. I'll sweet-talk her and she'll come around, my mom reassured them, but Arthur still seemed unsatisfied, muttering, if all else fails, we might have to, just like back then, just deal with that Ben already. Hearing this sent chills all over my body. I was trembling with anger. These beasts, to take over my house, they even want to kill my husband. I wandered around the supermarket, picked up some random vegetables and meat, and didn't buy any of the dishes Myrna wanted. When I got home, I threw the groceries into the kitchen and sat down on the sofa to play with my phone. Myrna glanced at it and started complaining. Where are the spare ribs and fish I wanted, and the shrimp? Why didn't you buy any of them? Did you do this on purpose? Hearing the commotion, my mom quickly came out of the bedroom, frowned at the stuff on the table, and said, I gave you the money, what are you getting angry about? I pointed to the sweat on my forehead. If you dislike it, go buy it yourself. Look at the weather outside. Eat what we have. Stop being so picky. Uncharacteristically, my mom didn't say anything or order me around. Instead, she turned and went into the kitchen and got busy. She made 8 dishes and a soup, a lavish meal. At the dinner table, she happily put a piece of meat into my bowl. Dorothy, eat more. See if it tastes like when you were a child. You know, you've grown up and hardly ever come to visit me. It's been so long since you last had my cooking. I nodded, kept my head down and continued eating quietly. Honestly, my mom's cooking is great. It would be foolish not to eat. Towards the end of the meal, my mom finally got to the point. Dorothy, you know, the house in the old town is quite old, the sound insulation is bad, and it's so noisy I can't sleep at night. I see it's quieter here in the new district, less crowded. In a few days, we'll move over here, and you can go stay at my place. Sure, no problem, I replied nonchalantly, stuffing a piece of braised pork into my mouth. My mom gave Arthur a knowing look. Proud of her plan, though my house is old, it's in a good location, convenient for you to live in, you won't be at a loss. Yeah, whether it's a loss or not isn't important, what matters is that you won't last much longer. The next day, the temperature climbed again, nearing 50 degrees, with hardly anyone visible on the streets. I spent my days lounging on the sofa with the air conditioning on, binge-watching shows, doing none of the household chores, perhaps because I had agreed to the house swap. My parents' attitude towards me had improved significantly, and they rarely asked me to do any chores. However, just like in my previous life, they still had no sense of stocking up, always thinking it was just a bit hotter than usual. Every meal still had to consist of 8 dishes and a soup, living quite luxuriously. Even following their eating habits, I gained a couple of pounds 2 days later, when we ran out of vegetables and the temperature had soared to 60 degrees. One could get sunburnt just by stepping outside, and every breath felt like an ordeal in the scorching heat. Arthur opened the balcony window to test the outside temperature, but immediately shut it with a howl. It's damn too hot. This cursed weather could kill someone. My mom walked out of the kitchen with a grave expression, sharing more unfortunate news. The water has stopped, with no stored water and just a few bottles left in the fridge. There was no way it could last 2 days for everyone in the house. Thus, the family's gaze turned towards me again. Dorothy, why don't you go out and buy some food and water? The fridge is empty. We can't just starve. I stayed put on the sofa, motioning towards the outside. Are you joking? Going out now would be deadly. If you want to go, go yourselves. After hearing what I had said, Arthur's eyes suddenly lit up, showing a touch of excitement as he looked at my mom. However, they were hesitant to speak in front of me. Soon, the 4 of them Gathered in the master bedroom for a private meeting, I put on my Bluetooth headphones and turned on the surveillance in the master bedroom. Mom, with this weather, even if the sun doesn't kill me, the heat stroke will knock me out. If I collapse, I'll be cooked alive on the pavement. This is a golden opportunity. I overheard. Arthur looked at my mom joyfully, as if my house and property were already his. But what if she doesn't die, and there's Ben, even though the house is in Dorothy's name? Alone, Ben might fight for the other assets. My mom hesitated, worried about what would happen if I didn't die. Even if she doesn't die, as long as we don't let her in, she'll still die of heat outside without air conditioning. As for her husband, it's uncertain if he can even make it back alive. Myrna looked menacing and pushed my mom to make a decision. All right, that's settled then, I'll go talk to her later. After their discussion, the four of them walked out as if nothing had happened. I quietly turned off the surveillance and switched back to watching a TV series. Even if they hadn't spoken, I was already planning to leave. The temperature had reached 60 degrees, and despite the air conditioning, it was still unbearably hot inside. There was no point in suffering with them any longer. In the afternoon, my mom asked me again to go out and buy groceries. I pretended to be troubled. It's too hot. Why don't you ask Arthur to go? Without thinking, my mom replied, he's a man. How would he know how to pick groceries? Just bear with it, and I'll make you something delicious when you get back. Annoyed, I grabbed my phone and bag and put on my sun-protective clothing. I wanted to take an umbrella from the closet, but my mom quickly snatched it back. The sun-protective clothing is enough. Leave the umbrella at home. My heart, already numb and disappointed, still ached once again, without hesitation. You push me towards death, even though I am your own daughter. If that's the case, then don't blame me for being heartless. I took the elevator down to the underground garage, turned on the air conditioning in the car, and waited until the temperature inside had dropped before driving quickly to the hotel. Fortunately, it was close by and there were not many cars on the road. I arrived at the hotel in 5 minutes. My husband hurried over with a big glass of water when he saw me. How are you? Sit down, I'll bring you some cold watermelon. I drank the water in one gulp, devoured a whole plate of watermelon, then took a cold shower in the bathroom and changed into clean, light pajamas. Everything went smoothly. From now on, we can comfortably live in this hotel. My husband works in a new media company and knows quite a few internet celebrities. He sent messages to some local influencers and big names on the internet, telling them about the hotel's address, its great value for money, and importantly, the abundance of food and water available here. Several influencers immediately posted videos for the sake of popularity, showing the hotel's amenities clearly. Within an hour, many people had driven over. Most were able to check into the hotel smoothly, while a few with a low goodness rating were turned away at the door. The reasons for their ineligibility, such as theft or school bullying, were displayed on a large screen at the entrance. They cursed and fumed at the hotel entrance, many pulling out their phones to record videos, but soon the heat drove them away, and their videos unintentionally generated even more attention for the hotel. By evening, as the temperature dropped slightly, even more people came to stay. My husband and I stayed out of sight the whole time and didn't plan to reveal that we were the owners. I confidently left everything to the AI robots equipped with the system. After all, their loyalty was guaranteed. You don't have to worry about me betraying you. As night fell and I still hadn't returned home, my parents couldn't hold their anxiety any longer and called me. Hello, Mom, I said, feigning weakness. Where on earth have you run off to? Why aren't you back yet? The whole family is waiting to have dinner. My mom, hearing my voice, didn't express any concern. She was only interested in whether I had managed to buy any food. It seemed they planned to make me stock up on food before shutting me out. What a cunning plan. Mom, there's no food left in the supermarket. It was all taken. It's too hot outside. I can't make it back. I'm hiding in an underground parking garage right now. Upon hearing this, Arthur immediately became anxious. What are you hiding for? Do you want to starve your mother? It's already dark. It's not as hot as during the day. Go out and find some food. My mom also started crying. Oh dear, I'm really starving. Please bring some food home. Well, I'll look again. After hanging up, I went downstairs with my husband to have a lavish meal. We sat in a comfortably air-conditioned restaurant, ordering 2 steaks, a bottle of red wine, 2 Australian lobsters, a plate of spaghetti, and a fruit platter. After a satisfying meal, we went for a full-body massage on the first floor of the hotel, and then comfortably returned to sleep in the large bed on the top floor. When I woke up again, it was already 10 a.m. There were over a dozen missed calls on my phone, all from my mom, my husband, and I ordered breakfast to our room. I mirrored the phone's surveillance camera to the TV and watched as we ate. I saw them making a large pot of thin porridge, each with a bowl of it, and a small dish of pickles in the center of the table. Arthur frowned as he stirred his porridge. Mom, we're out of rice. How come Dorothy isn't back yet? Could she have died out there? What will we do without food? Myrna, stroking her belly, sighed. Yeah, Mom, I'm nearly starving to death, and the baby keeps kicking me. Without a word, my mom pushed her bowl toward her. You eat. I can endure a little longer. I'll call her again in a bit. I bit into a soup dumpling, savoring the flavor. My mom still had the heart to give away her porridge, so it seemed she wasn't that hungry. Let them go hungry for a few more days. 2 days later, from the surveillance, I saw that my family could barely walk due to hunger, and there was only 1 bottle of water left in the house, each person carefully sipping a small amount. Mom, if it's too much, why don't you go out and buy some food? If not, we'll all die of thirst. Arthur pushed my mom, seeing the grim expression on her face as she looked outside. She said, I'm not well, let your father go. Upon hearing this, Anthony slapped my mom across the face. What nonsense. If it wasn't for your daughter failing to bring back food, would we be starving? Get out and buy some water and food. Don't come back if you can't find any. With that, he pulled my mom towards the door. My mom struggled for a while but eventually resigned herself to the situation, grabbing his son's umbrella and heading out. But as they opened the door, several men burst in. What are you doing? Trying to rob us? We don't have any food left. My mom stammered as she retreated behind Anthony. One of the men pulled out a property deed from his bag and slapped it on the table. This house is ours now. You need to leave. It's impossible. This house clearly belongs to my daughter Dorothy, the man said impatiently. Dorothy already sold the house to us a while ago, and we agreed to move in today. You better pack up and get out. After saying this, several people casually sat down on the sofa. It's lucky we bought this house. It's the only place in the new district that still has power. We'll be living here from now on. Arthur didn't want to leave because he knew very well that stepping outside was a death sentence in the scorching heat of over 60 degrees Celsius without a car, and they wouldn't last a day. But he and Anthony were no match for the group of 4 who, having been starving for days, were promptly thrown out. My mom called me, crying, and this time, I chose to answer. As soon as the video call connected, my mom started crying and scolding me. You ungrateful wretch, how could you do this to us? Who allowed you to sell the house? What are we supposed to do now? I took a sip of the iced watermelon juice from the table. Watching her performance, my mom paused her crying and trembled as she asked, how do you still have food? Where are you? I pointed the camera at the hot pot on the table, showing beef, lamb, shrimp paste, tripe, along with fresh green vegetables and fruits. I'm at a hotel near our house. This hotel is great. Not only does it have food and drink, but the prices are also very affordable. I was just rescued and brought here. I'm sending you the location now. Hurry over. I hung up the phone with a smile and sent the hotel's location to my mom. I knew they would choose to come. After all, they had nowhere else to go. As for how they would get here, that was no longer my concern. My husband and I waited in the hotel lobby for 2 hours before we saw my mom's family arrive. They didn't know where they had gotten a large piece of plastic sheeting to hold over their heads, and they stumbled over with Myrna protected in the middle. Unfortunately, they were stopped outside the hotel. Among them, Myrna had the highest kindness rating at 48. My mom only scored 36. This family really didn't even meet the passing mark. My mom desperately waved at me. Honey, get mom a bottle of water. I'm dying of thirst. Talk to them. Let us in. I frowned in discomfort. But Mom, I don't have any say here. Furious, my mom cursed. Then give up your in-bed spots. Let me and Arthur in. Hurry. Why should I? I pointed to the large screen next to the door which clearly listed the reasons my mom wasn't allowed inside: marital infidelity, murder of a husband, abandonment of daughter, plotting to kill her own child. You want to kill me too? No, that's not true. It's all lies. You know I love you the most. Please, let me in. If not, at least give me some food and water. I can't hold on much longer. I picked up an apple from the fruit plate and shook it at my mom. Give it to Mom, sis. Please, give me something to eat. Arthur and Myrna reached out to me, but Anthony kept urging my mom. I threw the apple towards my mom, and as soon as she caught it, Anthony snatched it away. He devoured it greedily, finishing the apple in seconds. My mom screamed and lunged to grab it, but was pushed to the ground by Anthony. She jumped up immediately from the hot ground. Dorothy, give your mom some more food. This time I shook my head. Now you see what kind of man you married. You killed my dad for him. You even wanted to kill me. I won't give you anything else. Just wait to die and atone to my dad. I turned away from their cries and left. That night, the system informed me that they had been sunburned to death outside the hotel, and their bodies had already been cleaned up by robots. I nodded and arranged to go to the hotel cinema with my husband to watch a movie.